Your neighbor tells you about the unstable man in the cul-de-sac who claims to have been abducted by aliens. And then there's the woman in town who claims to see Bigfoot all the time. Your boss, who you greatly admire, confides in you that he has started speaking with his wife daily when he gets home from work. She died 8 years ago. It's hard to believe this stuff, and you write these stories off as overactive imaginations. Are these people seeking attention, or are they a bit unstable? No matter what you think, if you're like me, you walk away wondering, what if that was true? The What If It's True podcast features stories by ordinary people like you and me. Something has happened to them, something so strange they are in agony unless they tell others. My name is Cameron Buckner, and the What If It's True podcast is available at whatifitstruepodcast.com and on all available podcast apps.
Welcome to Beast TV. What was that? You better get a fresh dip and buckle up. Welcome to Beast TV, and we are live. And if you're in chat, we welcome you, and we welcome everybody that takes time out of their day to come and to support our channel. And so, thank you very much, Larry. How you doing?
I'm tired, but I'm good. I'm hanging in there.
Has it been a pretty busy week for you?
Yes, tremendously busy.
Oh.
But that's all good. It's all good.
Yeah. It's been pretty busy here too. And tomorrow's going to really be busy. And
what do you got going on? You back from the gigolo business with your eye messed up? Don't tell nobody, my bad.
I go back to the eye doctor tomorrow morning, and I think they want to whittle on the other eye.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but it's getting really, really close. I mean, it's perfect camping weather right now. And then we've got bear season coming up.
It's not week in November. It's not bear season.
Bar.
That's right.
So that's what I got going on.
Yeah, that'll get you busy.
But tonight we got a friend. It's always great to have a friend to come on, and he's got Mark Green. I don't know if he messaged me or if I was watching him and Rebecca's podcast, but he mentioned that William had a new book or a book out. And so I'm kind of stupid when it comes to computers. So I don't know how to do that Kindle stuff. So I guess I'll just have to buy the hard copy of it and look at it. But we'll talk more about the book later on. I tell you what. Oh, Christy, thank you so much. We love Christy.
3 cans of chili.
I'm going to post a link to William's Amazon page where his book is up for sale, whether if you want a hardback copy or if you want it on Kindle, if you want them smart people.
Yeah, really.
But why don't you go ahead and introduce our guest tonight?
Well, our guest tonight is William Lunsford. He's been on before, and we're happy to have him on here again with us. This guy, he knows Bigfooting, he knows bass fishing, and he will kill a big deer every now and then.
I appreciate those good words, guys. Thank you so much. You know how excited I am always to be with y'all. Y'all have my utmost respect as a person, a human being, as well as being researchers, and just it's always a pleasure to be with you guys. You know what I think of you, and I'm not ashamed to tell anybody that. So I'm glad to be here. I saw where they misspelled your name. Yours, Larry, should be Larry Porsche, as one of the richest guys in Bigfoot, and Mark should be Mark New Bills as in $100 bills.
Oh yeah.
I'm glad to be here with you, but I say that in jest. But you guys are wonderful. Thank you. When we all get together, we have such a good time.
Let me say this. I know Will and Stephen drove 4.5, 5 hours our meet and freeze.
Yep. Meet and freeze. We sure did up there at Land Between the Lakes.
Yeah.
And man, it was so good that night because there's so many good people there, and then it started snowing on us. It was like 19 degrees. And so while we're sitting there, just about everybody had some kind of encounter, while we were up there. So I was sitting there talking to Gary Spike Sr., and we had one whistling up on the mountain there. I said, Gary, so we got Bigfoot whistling at us. So that night, me and Stephen go to bed. We're in our tent, and all of a sudden I hear something walking around our tent. And I have a sawed-off shotgun. I have my shotgun. I reached over and grabbed my shotgun. But I had left my shells in the side door of Stephen's truck. So I guess pistol whoop him if he jumped back in, but that's exactly what was going to happen. But we went out the next morning, found for some impressions. Of course, the snow filled most of it back up. But that was such an interesting place, and we got to meet Coonbo up there as well. Like I said, meet some other people, Cheryl Corntassel, and some other really great people. So really, really a great time. Yeah. And man, I hope to do it again pretty soon. There, like I said, we drove 4.5 hours one way or 5 hours one way just to get there. And stayed probably 4.5 or 5 hours and then drove back.
Yeah, I hated that. I was looking forward to spending some more time with y'all. But I understand it was miserable.
Man, hey, I was only cold that cold one time. That's in Montana with Duke Sullivan. It was 22. Y'all were actually colder than what Montana was up there. And man, I mean, I like to froze. So we used 2 full cans of propane with one of those buddy heaters, and it didn't do no good at all. Man. It made them people rich there. So.
Yeah, the wind was blowing 30 miles an hour. Everything's going right out the tent.
Hey man, the only other time it blows that fast is when my wife is on the phone with her best friend. Other than that, man, there's not any winds that blow any faster than that right there. He's in another room, so I can say that.
You better hide the cast iron skillets tonight.
Exactly right. Yeah, man, I'm glad to be back with y'all. Y'all had one of my friends on here named Brian Horn. Had one of the best shows I've ever seen. Brian's such a remarkable man, such a great videographer. He thinks all this stuff through, and I always learn something every time I'm with him. So, man, I texted him a while ago, and I told him, I said, you gave me a high bar to follow. I said, I'm not even going to try. And he said, well, you need to wise up and quit thinking that. But I'm glad he's here. Some of the other people that we got here, we have some great friends that are great Bigfoot researchers. And I'm not gonna be one of them kind to say, well, if Bigfoot exists, and all this stuff, folks, Bigfoot exists. Bigfoot is real. Dogman is real, and that's one of those things. And that's the reason that I think we do what we do, is to let people know that they are real, to share the experiences that we have, that we're lucky enough that we're able to get out. And what I really enjoy doing is sharing our experiences with some of our service people and our veterans who can't get out anymore, who've laid that groundwork so that we can do it. And if for what they get to do vicariously through us, I thank them so much for that as well, and to have this opportunity to bring back something to them. So So that's kind of my introduction. My wife, she helps me out. She actually, we're talking about those smart people that do Kindle. You know who put all my books, threw all that stuff together? My wife did. I tried to see this Kindle and then it would say the service not working. I said, I didn't care. So she did that. She did a really, really fine job. Really appreciate, couldn't do it without her as far as that goes, and she supports my aping habit. As most women won't put up with that. And every now and then she gets a little jealous because y'all know me, man. I enjoy doing this, and I am very passionate about it because Bigfoot is real. And we went 2 days ago. Me and my friend Jim Molenby, he's been helping me research some, and we found 3 tracks because we had like 8 inches worth of rain the last 2 of the last 3 days last week. So and we found one track that was between 21 and 22 inches by itself. But we found a 15.5-inch track, and then we found a 10-inch track of the baby right behind the mama. Got on a trackway there. So we'll get to see that in a minute. But like I said, just getting out and getting to do that, I'm excited, man. October is a good month for a Bigfoot.
Yeah.
When it starts cooling off, it's not so bad on us out there either. So don't let this opportunity pass y'all up, folks. Get out there. Hey, scan the edge of the woods when you're driving. Man, if I'm driving to church, I'm Bigfoot hunting. I'm sitting. And that's just the truth because you don't know when you're going to see them. So
yeah.
But I'm really excited about that right there. So man, like I said, I'm so glad to be with y'all. And me and Larry didn't get to fish this year. I hate that.
No,
we didn't. When you put a rod in his hand, that's the beast right there because he makes me fish as hard as I can. And he can catch the dickens too. We're gonna get on Mark out there pretty soon too, man.
Yeah. Well, I was about to say, I wished I was in that loop.
Buddy, you come right on I guarantee you. And, like I tell people, there's a reason that most of the apostles were fishermen. That's because we got good, the good brains and know what's fun. So, buddy, anytime you want to come on, you just come right ahead. And like I said, this year's not been as good. I've only got to fish 2 tournaments this year. Kind of had some trouble with respiratory stuff, but other than that, I don't know if it's COVID or whatever they want to call it, but whatever they want to call it, good Lord's going to get me through it one way or another. So anyway, I'm just glad to be here, guys.
Well, I thought we would start off from the beginning, from I believe 1977.
1977.
And when you realized that these creatures were out in the woods, and if you don't mind, William, if you'll just take as much time as you want and tell us about your first encounter.
Okay. For those of you who've never heard it, for those of you who have, please bear with me. But who've never heard it, man, I was a senior in high school in 1977. It was during the spring, just right after our track season. And so I had a coach. I was his teacher's aide, and every day whenever I got through grading papers and stuff, he and I would pump iron, and then he would let me go, and I would go to the woods fishing. Well, boy, this day was a perfect day. I go down there. I'm so excited because that's when I'm in my real element right there, is doing things like that, hunting and fishing, being in the outdoors. So I'll try to make a long story short. So anyway, whenever I get down there, I get to a certain gas line, and it has gravel pits on both sides of the road. And so these pits, nature's reclaimed all these pits, and so they're full of fish. So I'm down there fishing. And so when I'm down there doing this right here, I start to smell something really, really bad. And it was like a little southern wind blowing down this gas line that I was on. But that wasn't unusual because, like I said, there's a lot of roadkill and things like that. And I had been down there the week before whenever I was down there. And like I said, I smelled that smell, but also I had gone to get one of my most expensive baits I had. I'd hung it up in a tree. So I went around the back way. So when I got through, I was walking back to my vehicle, and something started pacing me down the edge of this gas line. So I thought some of my buddies were messing with me. So, I stopped for a minute and I said, I know you're over there. You're not kidding me, So anyway, everything was real quiet and it started up again. Pretty soon it starts up and it's right there beside me. We do this episode 2 or 3 times until finally I start jogging. And when I do, this thing actually starts jogging as well, or quickening its pace. And I realized it was paying attention to me. Didn't know what it was. I for sure didn't think there was a fountain monster. Didn't think it was Bigfoot. I thought more likely that it was probably coyotes or it was bears. We have panthers down here. And so I thought it was probably something along the or hogs. We got so many hogs we could outfit a bacon factory, just on one day's worth of kills. And before we got a bunch of them. So I thought that's what it was. Well, anyway, I get down to where I have to cross this creek where there's a ford, and whenever I do, this thing just blasts me. And it's not the kind of like you hear on so many shows. This is, and long, drawn out things. I said, your clothes are vibrating and your hair standing up on the back of your neck. And then you're thinking, man, what do I have to do to get out of here? So I take off running down the creek, across the creek, get back up there where my vehicle is. There's nothing there. I'm like, well, shit, buddy, you just dodged a bullet. And where I was running down the edge of the creek, I mean, we got every species of venomous snake except a coral snake down here. And so I got there to my vehicle. First thing I did was drive to one of our local discount centers and buy me a Bowie knife. I wasn't old enough to have to buy a gun, but I went and bought me a Bowie knife, and I thought, well, I'll just fix this sucker. We'll stop this. So sure enough, I'm back there about a week and a half later on this day right here fishing. And I start smelling that smell, but as I said, it wasn't unusual because of these gravel pits. They had all the animals that drank. They would eventually turn into prey. We had fish that were there. They would turn into prey. They get about halfway even before they turned into prey. So it would be so it wasn't uncommon to smell. The stench of it was so much more stronger. It was very rancid. Dead fish, dead animal roadkill is rancid, but this was really bad. And I knew it was kind of different, just like it was the week before. So I get down there. I've got maybe right at just a little bit before twilight. I start to cross this gas line. I had 2 more gravel pits across the road there. So I'm fixing to go hit these gravel pits, and I get about halfway across the gas line. As I look down my trail right there, there's a shadow over there on the left-hand side of the road that I did not recognize as being there before. Man, I've made this trip a lot of times. It had been 7 years since my dad had passed away. And whenever I was down, or I'm sorry, 6 years since my dad had passed away. And so I'd been there all those times with him. And then once I'd gotten to drive, I'd been down there by myself, been there with my buddies. But this thing that was standing on, or that was over on the side of the road, this shadow, I didn't recognize as being there. And I stopped and I thought, man, something's wrong there. And then I thought, boy, your imagination's running wild. You think about that last weekend, So, your imagination can get going with you out there in the woods. And that's what I talked myself into it being. Well, as I'm standing there, I'm stopped and looking down there. Finally, I'm like, you better go on down and get some fish or you're not going to get back. When I start to walk down there, this thing stands up. And wherever it does, he's got this limb with his left hand. And he's got it right in front of his face. And he's squatted down. He stands up. And whenever he gets to where the limb is where it's supposed to be, he continues to stand up. I'm like, oh, my gosh, what is that? And your first instinct is going to be, besides the supernatural or the paranormal, which is a Bigfoot, naturally I thought, oh, was that the fat monster? I didn't think of it Bigfoot. Bigfoot was not a big thing back then. But I thought, well, that's a bear. And then I said, no, that's not no bear. I thought it was probably a sloth. And then I said, well, Arkansas doesn't have sloths either. And then I thought, some of my buddies down here messing with me. Well, there wasn't anybody in the daggum ghillie suit. And he walks there in the middle of that road and he begins to posture in front of me and to go side to side like this, looking at me, and man, I'm scared to death. And I started crying. I started hyperventilating. I started praying. Of course, praying was my first natural deal, and got to think about my mom. What happens if something happens to me? Because, like I said, my dad had passed away. And so I'm sitting there looking. He's there in the middle of the road looking at me, just staring at me. And then he turns and walks back to this same tree. He gets the very same limb, pulls it down, skinned the cat, put the leaves in his mouth, and it comes back, and then the limb is bare. He chews for a little bit and walks out there in the middle of the road in front of me again. And whenever he does, he's sitting there just tilting. And he's got this look on his face. I call it posturing, because he's posturing like, don't come down here. And he didn't have to worry about that. I wanted to run. Actually, I didn't even want to be there at that time, but I couldn't run. I mean, I was just stunned. And so I'm sitting there, and he sits there and he gets that look, and he starts to make a step. Well, instead of, as he steps forward, he heels on that left heel, takes 2 steps, and then he's off the road. The 3rd step, he's in the woods and I can't see him. Man, I'm still freaking out. I want to be gone. Like I said, I want to be running. I just couldn't. I don't know if it was infrasound. I don't know if it was just human instinct. I don't know what it was. But I'm sitting there. Finally, I got my wits about me, and I'm like, buddy, if you're going to get out of here, you better. Well, I could swim. I was going to dive into one of them gravel pits and swim underneath the water, or else I was going to run down the edge of steel where I had been running my mile like during high school. So anyway, I jumped over a 20-foot creek called 4 Mile Creek. Didn't even get my shoes wet. Ran across, and I ran across a place where there had been it was a dumping ground there in the old field. And I thought, he'll get me right here, because I didn't have any place to hide, And so I'm running across there. Then I get to a canopy covered road bed down there where my vehicle is, probably almost a quarter mile. I run down there. I throw my tackle, my knife over the gate, and then I dive through the gate. And then I've already got my key. I hit the door. I'll jump inside right quick, start my vehicle, and look out there. Then there's my fishing tackle. I'm like, oh, great. So I'm sitting there, and I did not want to lose that fishing tackle. It was very special to me, and that was one of the nicest gifts I'd ever had for somebody who likes to fish. So I pull up there right quick in my car. I grab it, I throw it in the passenger side, and I drive back to Texarkana. So I'm a wreck. And I'm going to tell you, if he would have walked out, and that's what I'm thinking of, he's going to walk out of these woods up here and I'm going to have a wreck. When I got back to Texarkana, I would go in there and I sit down and just flop in my chair like this right here. My mama comes, she says, son, what is wrong with you? I said, Mama, you're not going to believe me. She said, what? I said, I just saw the Fount Monster. Well, if y'all don't know what the Fount Monster is, it's a creature that was in 1972 or 71 actually, and then 72, the movie came out. But it was a Bigfoot type creature that little town of Falk, Arkansas. It wasn't very big at all at the time, still isn't very big. And he had crossed the road in front of some people. He had come up to some people who had newly moved into a house. They hadn't even been there a week. He was sticking his hand through the window, coming up on their porch. From what the lady said, she thought maybe they had dogs, and every room that the dog was in, that would be the room that the Bigfoot would run around in and try to get in. So they're there one night, and when they do, they all go out. They've got guns. Well, when they shoot at it, I think there was two myself, based on what I know now. I truly believe there were two Bigfoot out there at that time. And so whenever the guy went out there, the girl started screaming. He started running back to the house and did the thing, attacked him. And you talk about a guy who doesn't get the respect he did. He actually outfought that Bigfoot and got away, and then went breaking through the front door there. And so anyway, this thing had been sticking his hand through the window and things like that. And so they moved within a week. They were there less than a week. So that's what the Fount Monster is. And every now and then, the first sighting was 1908. And you had some in the 60s through there, just periods of time where he makes himself. He loves that publicity. Then he's gone. You never know what happens. And then in the 70s, well, then at the 70s, everybody thought that he had disappeared because you weren't getting the sighting reports of what you were getting. But unfortunately, 1977 rolled around, and this big old boy was down there in the woods. And I got my education right there that day. Bigfoot 101. Bigfoot is real. He exists, and the Fount Monster exists. One thing about it, the Fount Monster still exists. It's the second most famous Bigfoot actually in the United States, next to Patty, that was out there in California. And so, and the story goes on and on. You think it's gone, and sure enough, somebody reports a sighting. And I was down at Monster Mart yesterday talking to the owner down there, and one guy turned in a sighting last year, and then another guy, Denny, I think, the man who owns the site, had one that he saw. He said it kind of resembled an orangutan. And so, whenever I see Bigfoot, I don't tell law enforcement. That's one of those deals that I don't want. Number one, I don't want them going down there messing with it, because you make him mad, and then when I'm down there by myself, then things may turn bad on me. But I don't tell them. I don't want them following me around. I don't want to mess with these animals, because so far I've had two aggressive encounters, but I've not had one that actually decided to take the step and attack me. So that's kind of where I got started. Well, then 8 years. Let's see, that was 1977. In 1985, I had my nephew with me, and we were at a place called Mercer Bio. Mercer, boy, it's a classic place. If you ever thought Bigfoot would live anywhere, this would be it. Right here we have on your screen, folks, this is a handprint from a Bigfoot on my truck in Oklahoma. Here's a footprint right here at my deer lease at Cale, Arkansas, right there in front of my vehicle right there. I'm realizing right here, I've got this yellow filter. Yellow filter tends to filter this up so you can pick up some of the detail. Apes' fingerprints, or whatever they are, tend to run crossways like this instead of round like this. Well, you can see that right there is about 16.5 inches. You can see the three toes, and it's right there in the middle of the road right there. He actually stepped to where the tire tracks are. The tire tracks didn't step over him. And so I saw him later on that year, this one right here. He's probably about 8 foot tall. Here's some of the great tree structures that we find, folks, down there. Bigfoot is so intelligent. Some of these things could go in a modern art museum, but they tend to be obsessive compulsive. What you'll find on one side, you'll find on another. The one there looks like a jungle gym. That's not too far from Falk, Arkansas, where there's a jungle gym out there where the kids play, and it looks just like it. Again, Cale, Arkansas, right here, probably the same animal, but it's about 3 weeks later. And so you can see, and that's my size 12 boot, and it's much bigger than what my foot is right here. So that's one of these things. What they do, this right here, one of their main things that they love the shapes of A, they love the shapes of X, they love to make little parentheses. And I don't know why they do it. Some people say it's territory markers. Some people say stay out, but it's unreal. You can see just how clear and how wide this footprint is right here. So that's kind of what got me started. When you got something, a being that does that right there, you're going to get hooked on it. After the sighting in 1985, when my nephew was there, after that I was hooked. Right here on the left-hand side of this picture right here that you're looking at is a 7 foot 5 inch trackway space between both feet. And I'm not talking about just from one tip to the other one. Again, right there, that's a 20-ounce Mountain Dew bottle right there, marking the size of the footprint. Right here is where it's actually the place right there is actually a Bigfoot kind of a den where they hunt from. And what they'll do, they'll build structures on the side of the road or in the woods. And when something comes by, they'll run out. And it's very, very, if I could have gotten it, it's more articulate. This one right here is right there on the top, you'll see, and that is a female Bigfoot that has a crush on me. My 2 feet are on the side right there, and she follows me around. She'll follow me around where we are, and then she's followed me one time 80 yards down the road. This trackway this structure right here was actually found in a state park down in Texas. I had heard about the Bigfoot being screamed at. I went down there, found it on my own. I knew the park ranger. He said, I'd love to see that. I took him down there and showed it to him. And when the next day, he's already got it torn down, which really upset me at him because he knew how big I was into this stuff. Right here, this right here is a big, big track. My tracks are right there beside. That's 4 inches deep. My tracks are not going in a quarter of an inch right there. That's about 16 and a half inches. A daggum sheriff's deputy came down there and saw that, and I thought he was going to quit the force. We had to call his wife. Right here, this is on Lake Pat Mays in Texas, right there around Paris, Texas. And that is a multi-tool, or I can't remember what they call the blasted thing, but anyway, they're about 6 inches long there. And you can see just how long the toes are. I've got another there where it's turned sideways inside. I found this down there. Pat Mays is a very, very famous place for Bigfoot activity. And so that's kind of an idea of just kind of a space marker there or a size gauge. On the left-hand side is my beautiful wife sitting right there. That is a Bigfoot structure where it was built up at my buddy's land up in Ashdown, Arkansas. This thing came up there on him one morning, 9 foot tall Bigfoot, screamed at him. He looks over there, have an eyeball contest. It goes one way, he goes the other. Well, his dad calls him on the phone. Son, what was that? His dad's 80 years old, very, very wise. He said, Dad, you're not going to believe me if I told you. Invited me to come up, buddy. Can't believe it. So thankful he did. This is the Bigfoot right here. I did a show for Travel Channel not too long ago. This thing came after us on Easter Sunday 2014, and I had that 44 there the next day with me. I didn't have it that night whenever the thing came after us. I had a 40 caliber Glock. But that's a 44 Magnum, and you can see how much longer it is right there. You see the toes up there at the top of that track. And when I went back the next day to try to find it, he was over there in the edge of the woods. And so I tried to sneak up on him, I had a little Motorola flip phone. It didn't happen. This is the gasoline, guys, where I actually had my first sighting, just down there about where the trees kind of start making a pinch point. Right there's where that road goes inside, that it's called the crossroads. And so it was right in there on the side of that crossroads. This is down off of Miller County, between Miller County 28 and Miller County 10, probably about a 3 mile long gas line right there. And Bigfoot is still there. There's been 7 sightings on this gas line within 2 miles and 26 within 32 miles on that sighting. Here's a 3-toed track. That's my deer hunting hat, and you can see the 3 toes up at the top. And I've got a pretty big head, so that's a pretty big hat, but that's a really big track. So I took a picture of it, and then I started looking around. But that's actually a 3-toed track. The one straight of the Falcon Monster was the 3-toed tracks that they had. This right here is made right there at my deer lease in Cale, Arkansas. They love to make those. We call them asterisks. And so sometimes they'll be short standing. This is probably 8 foot tall. I took Mary Boland down to a place down there in Texas, down there just outside of Douglasville, Texas, called Brian's Mill. We found that one that's about 10 foot tall, but the sticks are so evenly spaced and just beautifully laid in there. So you'll find this structure a whole lot as well. This is right there at my deer lease, about 60 yards outside of where our camp is. I thought, oh man, surely not. Well, then December 13th that year, I got a rock thrown at me while I was heading to my stand down there. Okay, this right here is the one on the right-hand side is another 3-toed track. You can see where the toes kind of splayed out because the mud was so soft. And that track is about halfway, and it's still about 10 inches long, which is the half of the track that you're seeing there. On the left is one. You can see that the toes very good. They bent, and this is down there in the sand right there. And I actually took my preacher's son. I let him walk by it so he would see it. Oh, man, he was tickled dead. He goes, man, they're real. I said, yeah, they're real. He said, I can't believe I found that track. Well, man, it did my heart good. And of course, you can see right here, here's another 3-toed track. The big toe wasn't quite as clear as the other two, but that track there is about 16 inches. The general rule, if you don't know much about Bigfoot, is the length is twice the width, and that tends to fit that one about right. Okay, guys, and again, these are some structures. the left-hand side X, the classic Bigfoot structure that everybody knows. They love to build X's. They build it. Now, I don't know if it's necessarily to stop you. I don't know whether they're bored to death or whatever it is, but that's what they do. They build that X, and they're beautiful when they do. The one on the right there was built in one night. You can see part of the limbs that got torn down, but the one limb that's standing up there, it's about 5 foot tall, or one log there, is as big around as your leg, and it's been jammed into the log that's leaning right there. And I mean, and it's unreal. Then it's in the ground. I found another one by that same creature about a mile away, and he had done just the same thing. This is a track that we found in a washway up there, a place we call Ground Zero. And that's my buddy Steven. That's his 20. If it was mine, it would be ones out there. But but that's Steven's, and we found that track right there, and you can see the toe. Very, very good, very clear. And this was in a washway. Every week when we would go up there, when it's rained during the springtime, you would find a new track, and it would be just like that right there. So very, very good track. I mean, there's nobody got their kids out there, and plus you can see the shape. All right, again, here we are on the left-hand side. Here's the other asterisk that me and Mary Boland found that day. And Mary Boland, boy, she is just as brave as anybody you've ever seen. She jumped out of that truck and run up there. Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And so, but on the right, we've got one that me and Steven found up there in a place we call the Dark Woods. But it appears to be a juvenile who has been mimicking the adults like that. And that's kind of how they teach our kids. When I was, my son was a baby and I was out there, he had one little bubble lawnmower popper. When you going through there following me. Well, that's kind of what they do. Again, this one on the left is really, really wide, really, really a wide track. And the one on the right is actually the smallest baby Bigfoot track that's ever been found that I know of. It's only 3 3/4 inches long. I've got it casted. I've got it out there on my shelf out in the garage. And this is probably the same one of this 10-inch track that you're going to see here in just a little bit. That's probably him as he was first born. He's sat down. Mama set him down right there by a mud puddle to get a drink. He didn't make any more tracks other than that, and then it was gone. You can see where hers had slipped. On the left right there, the off can, you think, oh, well, that's nothing. No, that's actually one of the big off cans. That's one of those big 13-ounce off cans. So it's probably 14 inches long. So that track's about 16 and a half as well. That ground is hard. And the one on the right there, the rain came and it silted it in, but it filled it in. But that track right there is 18 inches long. And you can see how that big toe up there on the right-hand side of that track on the right, kind of see how it splays out a little bit. So, folks, there, for the folks who want to believe it or not, America does have great apes in it. I think that would probably be one. I don't know what Bigfoot is, but the way that footprint is, I think that it would be. Okay, right here, man. Here's some of those. We call them parabolas, and they do the tree bows. They actually take those trees and they bend them over, and they'll either wedge them down with another tree or they'll stick the tips actually into the ground 5 or 6 inches. So you can see that. See how woven that stuff is. That didn't fall like that. Those things are woven just like a pot holder. If you remember little pot holders in the little weaving looms, it's the same way. And those limbs are too heavy to be done like that. And nature didn't do that. And it's well, yeah, no. Well, did you see it? No, I didn't. Did you see him not do it? No. But when you sit there and you go through there and you see how the limbs are woven, just like what you guys say my fingers are, then you know. This right here is a 16-inch track down there not too far from Boggy Creek. And that's the fact. We found 7 tracks right there on the trackway. And so that right there is one of the tracks. Most of those tracks tended to be 56 inches apart. We have one there where it sloped, where it got a little bit smaller, but then there was also a tree right there. It looked like it had been knocked on. There were some gouges out of the wood. So that could have been what that is. But we actually casted that track right there. And that's down at Boggy Creek, Arkansas, down there around Powell. Actually closer to a place called Thornton's Wells there, which is Thornton's Wells is a community hole. But if you go and you don't go, you may have missed your opportunity because, it stays around there. Me and Stephen, his daughter, had one night running across the deal to come confront me, and thank goodness I had a spotlight. This right here is in Texas. This is right there on the banks of Lake Wright-Patman. And you can see, again, there's that A shape they love, or that triangle shape. My wife is with me during this, so there's nobody. It's too hot in Texas. Those limbs are too heavy to move around like that, but yet that Bigfoot has taken those and crossed them in. You can see how they're crossed and made that shape. And then one beside it up there is kind of marking whoever it is, and one's just kind of sticking up straight. But that's on the banks of Lake Wright-Patman. Again, that's one way we find a lot of our Bigfoot tracks and our evidence is by looking around the lakes around there and the rivers. The Legend of Boggy Creek, there's one line in there that says they always travel the creeks, or he always travels the creeks. Well, that's exactly right, and that's what you got. Again, like I said, one of the casts that we pulled out there on the right-hand side, it's about 14 inches right there. And again, here's another one that has filled up there like that other one had. And that's the one on the left is a 19-inch track. And it's actually filled up with the, when the water filled it up with the sand, but that it didn't change the length of it. The length was perfect. It was actually 9.5 inches as far as the width goes, and we just didn't get there quick enough. And that's one of what we do right here. You get a good picture, you see Bigfoot walking by, and then all of a sudden the picture will be grainy, or you'll have a track like this right here. Look at the width of the heel right there. Okay, here's the baby Bigfoot cast that I've got there, the 3 3/4. You can see how skinny the heel is in through there. The heel's on the right-hand side of the picture. Then you can see where it's the groove is, and at the top there's 3 toes. And so whenever I got that casted, and then it was still a little bit evident, a little bit wet when I had to brush out some of the dirt on there, but brushed a little bit of the toe definition out. But it's still real good when you hold it in your hand. You can rub your hands over it like that, and you can feel all the impressions. And that's a legitimate track. Like I said, that baby, me and Stephen will see probably 2 to 3 babies a year, and my wife actually has a picture of one of those babies. Okay, look at this, man. This is, people say, oh, well, that's just nature. No, you got that Y limb. We find this up here quite often, where the Y of that limb goes around the trunks of the tree just like that. And then he'll mark it with that stick on the right-hand side, just sticking straight up. This is more than likely, if I'm not mistaken, this is down there where we have the X tree, down there where I had the Gugway chase me. But if it's not, that's what we find a lot of. Man, the tree structures, we started looking at you like, oh my goodness, and you take somebody down there and show it to them. This experience in the woods, and like, oh my gosh, I've seen this all my life. Man, I wonder what did it, Well, now you know, and then they start looking, sure enough, they start seeing. All right, this right here is a Bigfoot igloo. This doesn't look like it's very big, but it's about 7 foot tall on the left-hand side. On the inside of that right there is a space that's probably 4 foot deep, and on the inside it's probably about 8 foot wide. Well, what they do, they'll use these things as a sleeping blind, but they'll also use them as a hunting blind. This is just right off the road down in Smith Park in Texarkana. They'll get inside there, and when the animals come by, they can bust out of there so quick that generally it's it's time for a barbecue by the time that they. This is great, folks. On the left there, the Sasquatch notice. This is from Copper's Cove, Texas. If you've ever heard of Copper's Cove, Copper's Cove is the home of RG3, Robert Griffin, Heisman Trophy winner. And this sign was posted in Copper's Cove City Parks about Bigfoot that have been seen there. And on the right-hand side, that is a drawing of the Bigfoot as I saw him as he was starting to stand up. Right there, you can see the dark eyes, you can see the brow ridge, you can see all the hair. The hair was not like all matted and stuff, but it was kind of long. And but man, the hands and the arms went all the way to the knees right there, and there was no way I was going to outrun. This structure that's up here for you guys was made on October the 15th, just in one night. And you can see the one where the stick is on the right-hand side has been jabbed into the other limb. You couldn't pull it out. That other limb's about 23 feet long, I believe I measured, and it's probably 350 pounds. I had to squat lift it to even get it to lift up just a little bit. But he built this in one night. I went to my cousin has a band from Russellville, Arkansas. Went up there and checked it before I left. I came back the next morning whenever I got back in town, and that was already built just in one night. So really, really impressive structure. Again, look at this. Here we got your little, I guess you want to call it your little schoolyard structures, because you got the 3 there, the 3 that are put together. They're jammed between the other tree there, and they're wedged. You can't move them. You're not going to move them. It's not something that just fell in that way. You're not going to move, and they're so perfectly placed in there. But it looks like almost like a crow's foot, or like the old peace sign that we used to have there through the 70s. And when I found that, I'm like, oh man, and I set up a camera there. I never got any more than that right there. But still, that was worth. That's a very, very pretty structure to see, especially when you see it in person.
I think I interrupted you with those pictures because you were about to tell us about your second sighting.
Okay, yeah.
1985.
1985. I had bought me a boat, and I was at Mercer Bayou. It didn't have a big motor on it, but it pretty good size motor for me to start fishing. Me and my nephew got all the way to the end down there of the bayou and didn't know how long it was going to take us to get back. So we left, and so whenever we did, we got back to the boat ramp, what we call dark 30 here in Arkansas. It's about 30 minutes after dark. You can still see just a little bit of twilight. So I go up there to get my vehicle. There's nobody else up there on the ramp. I go up there and pull my truck down there. I back down the boat ramp. We pull my boat onto the trailer. Then I pull it up just a little bit. Man, we're having a ball. We've caught fish. I've got my 8-year-old nephew who I've raised like a son, who love him to death, and he's had a good time. And so while we're down there, all of a sudden this thing stands up in the corner of the parking lot. Again, that same yell that I gave you a while ago. And man, he just turns white. You can see him glowing at night. He said, William, what is that? I said, get in the truck. He goes, what is that? I said, get in the truck. He said, what? I said, get in the truck. So he gets in the truck. I walk around. I didn't even tie my boat down. That boat I could have used it as a daggum paper airplane sail, because I did not care. I wanted to get him and myself away from that thing. He took back off into the woods, but the scream that he gave me was not like, welcome to the woods, buddy. It was like, get your tail out here. And so we did. I got up there about a mile away. I tied my boat down, and whenever I did, we left. And then I really started studying then. I tried in 77. There just wasn't much to learn about Bigfoot back then. You know, you had Patty in 1967, you know, and then my first remembrances of Dennis the Menace back in made a show in 1963 called Creature with the Big Feet, but there just wasn't much left. Well, 1985 there was more, and so I really started studying, because I knew that if my habitat and his overlap like that, then I needed to learn something about him. And the cool thing about Mercer Bio is Mercer still gets several sightings every year there of the creature down there, or the creatures. There's more than one creature down there, and the crazy place. It's just like the Everglades. You've got Spanish moss, you've got alligators, you've got hoot owls that call all day long. Really, really good bass fishing. There's a cottonmouth in every tree. Wasp nest is big around as an old 12-inch LP album, and they're full of those little stinging knotheads that will buzz off that tree. If you even think you want to hit that tree with a bait, well, they're going to fly right down your line, and they're going to get you good. And you would just about as soon take your chances with the alligators as you would them that can walk like that. But that's just kind of what a wild place it is. Hogs, you see them jumping in the water, swimming across, and all of a sudden you see something get one of them hogs, and then one of the hogs is not there anymore. They do eat those hogs. So, but it's just it's a great place, and it's storied. I have a friend that went down there this last year, and his name is Bo Jackson, like the greatest athlete in the world. Bo is a real fine guy. I just met him last year, and he was down there hunting, going to his place. I said, well, Bo, do you ever see anything? He said, well, I'm down here just checking my cameras. He said, for some old hairy creatures. I said, now, we're talking about 2-legged hairy creatures or 4-legged hairy creatures? He goes, well, I'm actually looking for the deer, the 4-leg. I said, you ever seen the 2 legs? He goes, I hear some things I can't understand. So whenever he does, I said, when you get anything, please let me know. Or, you know, I said, I'll come down with my boat and check. Well, sure enough, last year, right after deer season, man, he sent me a message. It's as true to his word as he said he would be. He said, man, listen to this right here, man. Of course, you got about like what you're going to hear in just a little bit on this scream right there. And he just couldn't believe it. He said, man, he said, I've always had that feeling. He said, there's sometimes you feel like something's watching you, or you know there's something not right with the woods. And he said, now I know for sure that they're here. So, you know, Bo, just real good guy, man, nice guy, honest guy, good father, good dad. He has no reason to lie to anybody either. But he's just real good, and I'm hoping that he'll have some stuff. He's a big deer hunter. Hopefully he'll have some more audio for us to listen to here pretty soon. There, so it'd be great.
Yeah. Bo knows.
Yeah.
Oh man, there's no doubt. That's the one thing about. Let me say this about Bigfoot, and folks. If you think we're all crazy, we may be like the guy, like the intro that said the guy at the end of the cul-de-sac. Well, that's me. I have one guy tell me. He said, "Man," he said, "You remember that crazy uncle everybody used to talk about they kept in their attic?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "That's you." I said, okay, great. So, but it is. It's one of those things right there, and I really enjoy the people that I meet. I've met some of the greatest people you've ever seen, you know, and they're always friendly. They share a lot of them share their stories. Very few of them don't. Some of them do, you know, or some of them won't. But good people like you guys said, man, lifetime friends, and it's all races, it's all religions, and it's all nationalities right there. But the thing that we all share is they all have a belief. And most of them have a knowledge of Bigfoot, and that's why we're doing what we do. Like I said, I want everybody to know. I don't say this bragging, but you don't see any trepidation in my voice. Bigfoot's real, folks. I see at least 6 or 7 every year, but then I'm retired. And if I'm not sitting here in this recliner watching TV, then I'm either driving the roads, or else I'm in my boat, or else I'm a cruise, or else I'm in the woods actually doing some boots on the ground research. And when you least expect it, you're going to see a picture here in a minute there of a guy in an orange hat that least expected it, and there's something standing in front of him up there. And my buddy got that. He came down from Alaska. He comes down. His name's Daniel Becker. Daniel comes down and to Bigfoot hunt with me. So he's behind me. He had been chased into a tree that morning by hogs. So he was already kind of on the shaky deal. So he's behind me, and we stop. We hear the Bigfoot. They're over there. What they love to do, if you get them separated, they'll start making a bunch of noise to distract you, so that whichever one of their crew has gotten separated or whatever, or else they feel like they're in danger, they'll start making this noise. So while you're over there staring this way, well, they'll just cross the road or they'll sneak off. So that's what we're doing. And Daniel's behind me, and we're hearing the noise. So while we're standing there, I said, Daniel, send me some of the pictures that you got right here. Just let me see if there's anything up there. Sure enough, he does. The very first one. You'll see me in an orange hat turn this way. You'll see me, I'm carrying a 45-70. I don't care it to kill the Bigfoot. I carry it for the hogs, the bears, and everything else too. And look up there and straight ahead, about 40 feet away, there's a Bigfoot standing there in front of in a tree. And I didn't see him because I was so worried about these other animals and him having been run up the tree early that morning. I want to make sure I didn't miss for his sake, you know. And so whenever we finally get the picture, I said, Daniel, look at here. And so sure enough, there he is sitting there, and you'll be able to see that in a minute as well there. Really, really one of the most humbling experiences. I was kind of frustrated that I didn't get to see it live, but the fact that I got to get a picture of it, which sometimes that picture's worth 1,000 words. Well, guys, y'all know how fast I talk. May not be quite 1,000 on that, but it's worth probably about 950 on that anyway.
You know, you were talking about Mercer Bayou, and I have been there a few times. I have been in a boat in the daytime, and it's spooky in the daytime, but being in a boat at nighttime on Mercy is just you have to control your imagination because it can get away from you.
And you'll end up with chill bumps the size of mosquito bites the whole time that you ride down, because it is just that eerie. And the funny thing is, I've had three other sightings down there on that boat ramp. Twice they were of a mama that had twin babies with her. And the other one, last 2 years ago on May the 25th, there's one, like I said, doing the distraction bit, and he's over there, he knocks on a tree. So I'm sitting there fixing to send an audio to a guy named Duke Sullivan up there so I can get it broadcast. And then whenever I do, and I turn back around, well, here they are running across right quick. So I just cut the deal off, try to get a picture. It's the blurriest, ugliest picture you ever saw that I'm proudest of any pictures I've got. You had to see three at the same time running across there. I'm like, oh my gosh. And I should have been smarter. I've been doing this for 46 years. I should have known that Bigfoot was trying to set me up so that, you know, to distract me, but you just don't think that fast sometimes, but they do. They have ways of doing things. Very, very intelligent animal. Thank goodness they don't have most of them don't have a mean streak in them, because if they did, would none of us be here right now. For sure, this old fat boy here wouldn't be here. Y'all have some guy talking about Kentucky Fried Chicken or something like that.
Look, I wanted to ask you, William, because I have been to Fouke many times, and there is something about Fouke with the three toes.
Yep.
Now, do you have a theory or what's your thoughts on the three? Because probably in that area, it's probably the most populated three-toed boogers of anywhere in the country.
Exactly. I've got 3 tracks there, Monster Mart down there, that are three-toed tracks. But truly, I used to think it was mainly inbreeding, but I don't anymore. I think there's probably a species trait down there, because, you know, a lot of the Bigfoot that people see, they don't look like apes in the face. Well, you know, they say they can look like people. No, these down here, they look like apes in the face, whatever they are. I don't know if they're skunk ape. I don't know what they are, but I think that tends to be a species trait. I have a friend down here that is he works for a pest control company down here. And so the day after the one got after me and my wife and my son down there on Easter Sunday, 2014, he was at my in-laws. And so we walked in, we were joking around. He said, "Boy, it's good to see y'all." And I said, "Yeah, it's good to be seen." And the guy says, "Yeah, I know." And I said, "You know?" He goes, "Yeah." He said, "They told me about what happened to y'all." I said, "Oh, really?" I said, "Do you believe in that?" He goes, "Man," he said, "let me tell you this story." So he was there on the banks of Mercer Bayou down at Thornton's Well, camping with his family back when he was a young man. And so they had been sitting up there. We're actually on the show Return to Boggy Creek, called Finding Bigfoot, where Bobo was showing the movie The Legend of Boggy Creek. on these big tall oil drums up there. And so they're all right there camping. Well, his dad sends him to go down and get some water. So he lays down on the bank, he slings the bucket over, and he's pulling it up there trying to get some water. You never get enough, so he tries this 2 or 3 times. Well, his shadow walks up and starts shadowing over, and he sees that the sunshine is gone, so he thinks it's his brothers. He's got 2 brothers. They're pretty well stinkers. And we'll just that's the nicest thing we'll say about them today. They're good guys, but they just ain't gonna tell you nothing. I asked them one time about it, and they said, "Why don't you walk about 3 miles down there and turn left at this one tree and then see what you find, and you tell us." Well, man, I appreciated that kind of info, So, but anyway, so while he's sitting there and he thinks that's his brothers, then he hears one of the pebbles or the rocks move, and he turns around. He said, "I told you you're not scaring me." And he looks around, and here's the fountain monster. He said it's about 7 foot tall. It walked down the banks of Mercer Bayou and it's standing right behind him on the boat ramp, right there. He leaves the bucket. He takes off running up the hill up there where his daddy is, and boy, Daddy was mad. "Son, where's that water I told you to get?" "Daddy, there's a monster down there." "You get down there and you get that bucket and get that bucket full of water." Well, about that time, Bigfoot says, "Well, I'll just go down there and have him talk about your dad the way he's talking to you." So he goes up the hill. Dad sees the Bigfoot. He said, "Y'all get in the truck." So they get in the truck. They leave all their camping equipment. They drive down about 50 or 60 yards. And this 3-toed Bigfoot, which is one thing he told me specifically, he said that Bigfoot had 3 toes, just like what you heard that they did. And back in the original Fountain Monster encounter that was broadcast. And so they sit there and watched him ransack their camp. And then whenever he got through, got all the food stuff that he could use, they say he just sit there and just kind of posture at him like that, then took back off down towards the bayou. Well, he has seen, he's not a man that's given the line. He's not scared or anything. He's just a good old honest guy. And he said, "I've seen 2 more down there." And he said, it doesn't appear to be the same one. He said, but they all 3 have had 3 toes. So I think it's actually a species trait. I don't know whether it's skunk ape. I don't know whether it's a southern Sasquatch. I don't know whether you want to call it bio Bigfoot or whatever you want to call it, or just the Arkansas Sasquatch, or what I wrote in my book there, My Quest for the Arkansas Bigfoot. I think that's probably what it is. Now, nobody knows for sure. And guys, I'm not an expert, but I'm telling you, I see this track, and I actually see it some right up there. We have a place we research at the foothills of the Ouachita Mountains up there, not too far from Mena. And sometimes we actually find those 3-toed tracks up there around Mena also. So evidently, that's why I say it could be more than likely just a species trait rather than just the inbreeding. But you ask somebody what they are, you'll get 1,000 different responses. Some people will say they're aliens, which I don't believe, not a lick. And whatever they are, they're a creature that God made that Noah put on the ark, as far as I'm concerned. And so with that right there, but they do that 3-toed. And the thing is, their hands don't have 3 fingers on them. Their hands tend to have the 5 fingers, but the thumb is really far back. Let me go the other way there, about like that right there. Anyway, it's way down there on the wrist, right down here where the thumb comes off there. And so they've got fingers about 5 to 7 inches long, and then the thumb is way down here. But then they've got 3 toes. So, and some of them have webbed feet. That right there, I don't know if that's a species trait or inbreeding, or whether it's because they spend so much time in the mud. It's like, when skin divers go down there, and you see how they've got those big frog fins on. Well, that's to help them to move around and to not go down into the mud and things like that. And I think that might be one reason they have the way the good Lord, one thing he did, he made us masters of our domain, just like they are of theirs, buddy. They're good at what they do in their own environment, but he made us the same way. So I see there's Spencer. Thank you, Spencer. I appreciate that. I really do. Man, you guys are smart. And the reason when you write a book here, change the subject a little bit, everybody says, "Oh, well, you're trying to make money." Buddy, you don't make money on this. The labor of love thing is actually too overused, I think. But I had these encounters. People said, "Well, Will, why don't you write a book?" I said, "You think people will believe me?" They say, "Well, man, yeah, they'll believe you because they know your character down here. They know I'm not a heathen or anything. I've never been arrested. Only got 2 traffic tickets, and so I'm pretty good about that." Now, my wife may not agree with me, but no. No, so anyway, the stories I had, and I tell people, and they could see, especially my first encounter. Whenever I tell about my first encounter that I told y'all about, man, my blood pressure. I was in Little Rock fixing to do a surgery. They had the blood pressure cuff around my arm. When the lady asked me, she said, "Texarkana, that's just not too far from Falk. You ever seen the creature?" I said, "Yes." She goes, "Tell me about it." all of a sudden from 137 over 85 to 204 over 96. And they alerted the stroke alert team. And this is the truth. I'm sitting there in the hospital with stroke alert team. Cindy goes, nah. Said, he's not having a heart attack. Said, he acts that way, or he gets that way every time he retells that story, because it's so vivid in my imagination. I mean, man, my heart rate gets going. Generally, my voice will start quivering. You'll see my eyes that I'll tear up a little bit, and I'll get chill bumps, down the back of my neck. So it's one of those things that just, man, it's one of the most remarkable things I've ever seen for me on myself. And then when I hear from the other people the same way, that's the way a lot of the Bigfooters get their start, the Bigfoot researcher. Well, I saw one and I had to know more about it, then they start researching a little bit. Then when they see another, and they're hooked. And that's kind of how, I'm passionate about it, but guys, I'm not crazy. And what I'm telling you is real. That's the reason I'm passionate about it. I'm too old for bedtime stories. And but when you see these things, and I want to share it with people, there's a creature there that we have there a lot of people don't believe in, Dogman. Y'all know it's real, and I know it's real. We finally got Stephen got one of the greatest pictures you'll ever see of one up there. But Dogman, when you have these creatures, but I don't want somebody to get hurt and say, well, Will, why didn't you tell me that they were real? And one thing, bless my wife's heart, that she does, she defends me in that right there. That's hard to do, when people are making fun of your husband, because if I make fun of her cooking, here it comes. But for those to make fun of her husband, and boy, she'll set him straight now as far as that goes. But she knows as well. She's a believer. Well, actually, she's a knower as well. And so that's kind of how this is right here. It's just it's the greatest thing that I've ever participated. And I have a lot of hobbies, man. I love to fish. Unfortunately, I'm passionate about all of them, but that's the reason I'm as passionate as I am about this, because they are real. I want people to know. I don't want to have those encounters where where they're not prepared, or at least kind of have an idea. Yeah, that could, I had no idea in 1977, 15 seconds before I walked up on that booger, that he was actually alive. Well, he was, and it's just, it's really, really, like I said, I put a nail or a period right there. And every day of my life is before that period right there, before I saw the Fount Monster. Everything after that is after I saw the Fount Monster, and it's affected it there. It really did. When I first knew I was going to have to tell my wife and my in-laws, for future in-laws, that I had seen the Fount Monster, we were at their house one night, and so we were talking, and I said, may as well tell you. I said, I've seen the Fount Monster, and I was expecting her dad to say, well, son, that's real good. Be sure you pick up all your stuff on the way out and don't come back. But here's the cool story. Right there, and some of you may have heard this, but anyway, when I told him the story, the lady across from where my in-laws were building their house had a member garden club. So she had all her chairs set up against her pasture, and she was there to discuss the things there in her front yard. And so while she's sitting there talking, about a 7.5 foot rust-colored Bigfoot walks down her fence line, and it's sitting there just looking at her, and she's freaking out. And she's like, "Oh, I can't let these ladies see this right here. They will. There will be pandemonium." So she still keeps talking. She kind of gets a little animated, to father. She's telling her story. Then it goes on, steps over 4-strand barbed wire fence, and then goes on. Well, she kept this secret from the rest of the ladies, but she told my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law said she was one of the most truthful women you ever seen. Had 5 kids. They were all good kids, no trouble. And she said for her to tell her that, she said, I guarantee you it happened. And then about 3 years ago, there was another sighting down there about a mile from that road that they used to live on. So I know it's true. But for that lady to have that story, that wasn't what I was prepared to hear. I was prepared to hear, get out of here and leave. But instead, they come across with that story. And my in-laws, good Christian people. They don't lie. This lady was a good Christian-minded lady, and didn't lie. And whenever I heard that, I'm like, oh my goodness, So that's when you hear something like that right there, the story's a whole lot bigger than just your little account down there in Falk or down there in Mercer or everything like that.
Yeah.
Jelly Bean Sunshine is want to know, are the 3-toed ones toes spread out like a bird, or 3 toes together like others cut off? I need a visual. And we'll look at some pictures later on.
Okay. And Jelly Bean, here's the funny thing. You hit the nail right on the head. They're not all the same. One thing I will tell everybody, not all Bigfoot look the same. They don't all have the cone heads. Some of them have the rounded heads, what we call hanks. Some have got, just a little rise, a little bitty dome head, something like that. But on that three-toed track, depending, a lot of time it depends on how much the soil is, how those toes will splay. And whenever you're going through the mud there, when they do, it'll show like a different shaped foot, like that picture we saw a while ago. That's all spread out. He was coming out of a creek, or a little creek, or a little wash on the side of the road. I call it a creek right there, and where those tracks were. But they actually, some of them actually appear where there'd be one here in the middle, one kind of on the other side, and then do it this way. Then you got the other toe sticking out like that. You'll have the three toes that way. So it's just not every one is the same. I did find one down there, and Marshall one time. It looked like there's a guy who does trapping down there, and it looked like the Bigfoot had gotten his toes caught in the trap and actually caught up or cut off a couple of those toes. But I think that's something that occurs really natural. And I've got some pictures of. Well, if you'll send me a deal here on Facebook Messenger in a little bit, I'll send you some of those three-toed tracks there, Jelly Bean, and send them back to you there through that and let you look at them because I mean they're just as plain as day. And like I said, they've got dermal ridges on them, and it just depends on how the individual is. You know, sometimes it could be due to disease. Sometimes it could be due to snake bite. People say, oh, well, they're 8 foot tall. How's snake bite going to do it? Well, suppose they get snake bit whenever they're young, when they don't have that big immune system like that. Well, then it's going to have a whole lot more effect on what it is. But we don't know. But like I said, that three-toed track is a genuine thing. I've got, like I said, 3 casts there, Monster Mart in Falk, Arkansas, that have the three-toed track to them. Actually had a guy remark about it yesterday. I did a show with a KARK TV Channel 7 out of Little Rock, and one of the guys that was in there while we're shooting, he goes, man, he said, those are yours? So yeah, he goes, most of them got 3 toes. That's the classic thing of a Bigfoot around Falk. But some people say it's called the Gugway has the 3-toed tracks. And if that's the case, then that's the one that's got the bad attitude. That's why you don't go down there. You don't go down there with a 40 caliber. You go down there with something that can do a whole lot more damage, because the one that I saw that ran up on me, he meant me harm. He hid behind a log there's some spider web roots there. And he stuck his head down between the logs just like this here and just waiting on me. And he wouldn't even move. Well, finally, whenever I stopped and saw him, then he lifted up his head and he turned and looked to his left. I have a buddy who's a Native American. I called him, told him about it. He said, did he move his head or anything or turn around? I said, yeah. He goes, he had a partner. He was hunting you. And so that really freaked me out. My buddy, Randy Crawford, wanted to go the next day. I said, I can't, Randy. It's PTSD. I said, I truly can't. Because he knows I'm not afraid. I don't run from him as a rule. But this one I ran from. And so then went back. My son, good as he is, he didn't want to be a half an orphan, so he bought me a 45-70. So it's at my house the next day. So then me and Randy Crawford go down there. We take about 50 pictures. He has 2 computer monitor screens on his desk, and he places them side to side. And that thing has got like a Dogman's snout. It's got a Dogman's snout, got little ears like that right there. But the Gugway, or they call them whistling bears, they tend to whistle more, and with this right here, but they tend to have more 3-toed track. So it could be a species deal with a Gugway, but there are some Bigfoot that have, some of these toes are 3 and 4 inches long that have those toes spread out like that. But if you'll contact me, Jelly Bean, like I said, I'll try to. It may take me a little bit. It may be tomorrow before I get them to you, but I can send them to you and let you look at them. If you need a visual, I'll be glad to do that. I'm not selfish with the pictures that I have at all. Neither is my research partner, Stephen Hill. Steven's just, Larry Marketer, he's just as good a genuine guy as we can be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Man, he is. He's one of the best you'll ever meet, and smart, great Bigfoot researcher.
And I wouldn't want to make him mad.
Oh, no, sir. I thought that track back there, that female that's supposed to have a crush on me, I said, that's really on his crush right there. But she's afraid she can't whoop his wife to get him away from him. So, yeah, but me and him have a ball. And then our friend, like I said, me and Jim Owen, the man I told you about, went out with the other day. Great guy. Daniel Becker, you're going to see some pictures in a minute. You're going to see one of the best Bigfoot pictures you've ever seen. 10.5 foot tall. Got 22-inch tracks over there, different space. And we're sitting there looking at him. And he has a better camera than me. Therefore, we took it with his camera, which is fine. I'm not into the competition thing, but I was the one carrying the 45-70. And so with him being from Alaska, he's never seen Bigfoot before. He's never seen hogs. He doesn't like snakes. Buddy, I'm telling you, he don't like snakes, and I don't either. Oh, Jelly Bean, thank you. You're welcome. I appreciate that. Just thank you for sharing with us. But Daniel is really, really good. And boy, he's been down here 3 times. He's got 3 different pictures. I mean, he got one off of a drone. What more could you ask for? I said, let's go to the boat right. Let's go to the boats right quick, and let's see if that luck keeps up. Steven's a great guy, man. Couldn't ask for a better researcher. Randy Crawford, Shannon Cruz, man, he's just as good. Like I said, Jim, the guys I've got with me are guys that you would Do I have to wear a body cam? Sometimes, but we have so many vines and stuff like that it'll hook you around the neck, and they'll actually pull you one of them deals when you walk through. We got called saw briars. And man, them dudes, I don't know if you can see my hands, you can see all the marks from the saw briars just 2 days ago. I thought Count Dracula had been a hold of me. I mean, I was bleeding everywhere. but I do take a camera like that right there with me a lot of the times. And then I put my game cams. I get a lot of pictures, guys, from game cams. And people say, oh, well, there aren't any pictures. Yeah, I've got some with my cell phone. My wife got one with her Canon phone. She got an actual picture of a baby that you'll see here in a minute. And so with that, but then I've also used game cams. If y'all go in your house and they're nailed up to your wall, it's like one of those cuckoo clocks right there that wasn't there before, you're going to notice it. I'm just strongly suspicious that you're going to notice it. Well, the same way with Bigfoot. When you just hang a dog on camera on the side of the tree and he walks down to a trail that he walks every day, he's going to notice that game camera. And so that's why one reason you don't get a lot of pictures of him. I've seen deer walk around my camera before, man. And but this dude right here, man, I've been so excited before we found that track going there. And all of a sudden he gets to it, and like I said, he walks around the backside of the tree. They can see infrared. I had one on Sulphur River on January 13th, 2017, about 2 weeks after my mom passed away. And this dude, we were riding the boats down the river. And so he was throwing rocks at us. So we stopped. And so we were just kind of letting the river current carry us. And man, all of a sudden I went to turn on my flashlight and the battery was totally dead. My son's battery was totally dead. Randy's battery was totally dead. My son had bought us a FLIR that for Christmas. He said, Dad, get the FLIR. I got the FLIR, put it up there. And whenever I went around that bank right there, this thing is kind of hiding in the brush. When that infrared light hits him, man, he walks down there the very same way, just does that number right there. I said, Sasquatch, man, freaked out. And so I'm sitting there watching and on the FLIR camera. He turns, he runs about halfway up the hill, turns around again, looks at me, kind of snarls and gets to the top. And Randy goes, let me have it. So I had gloves on. And like I said, January 13th, it was cold. I handed him the FLIR. And when I did, the tip on my glove that doesn't run all the way to the end of your finger, turned the daggum camera, the FLIR off. So when I did, I handed it to him, it was off. He goes, you turned it off. And so needless to say, I was not his best friend for about the next 2 weeks. But they can see infrared. And that's a fact. There's no doubt about it. I'm telling you that, folks, from experience, not what I think or not what I've read. I do read a lot on my game camera stuff to make myself a better game camera operator. Read a lot on the FLIR and stuff, how to make myself like my wife's digital camera. Boy, she's an expert with that kind of thing. Loaf of bread, gallon of milk, and peanut butter and jelly so we can keep. Okay, Brian Orr. Brian Orr, like I said, one of the greatest researchers you'll ever find right there. Very, very humble man. Smart as a man. I don't know what his IQ is, but it's twice mine anyway. But he's a great videographer. We've been out together some there, not as much as I'd certainly like to since he lives in Shreveport. But like I said, we get to go out there some. He's actually been out with the people from the show Killing Bigfoot. There's some friends of his, especially Rogan Bird and Jim Lansdale. And I know before everybody gets their backs in a roar whenever you mention them. Them guys didn't name that show Killing Bigfoot.
Yeah, you're correct with that.
Yes, it's not. I got to speak with him. Brian put on the show the first Louisiana Bigfoot Film Festival last year in Shreveport, and Jim was there. Jim Lansdale as well as Bobby Hamilton. Bobby used to be a professional wrestler, but Bobby started that deal right there. So they were both down there. So I got to visit with them and talk to them about some of the things they found. They said, "Man, we didn't name that. So we don't want to kill a Bigfoot." What people don't realize. Had a post this week here in Arkansas of a lady about 1 hour away where the Bigfoot was in her yard. He was trying to go up underneath the house. He's scaring her dog, and she was scared to death. Bigfoot you'll get some that are a little bit cantankerous, and you don't know how far they're willing to go, as far as they go. But she posted this online. So my friend sent it to me. I tried to call her back. She hasn't called me back to say, because at least, so I finally told her, I said, look, you're not going to answer me back. Let me make 2 suggestions to you. Number 1, don't go outside by yourself at night, being a female. And then number 2, put your dog inside because they don't have. I talked to a good friend of mine yesterday named Doyle Holmes. Y'all seen Doyle on Monsters and Mysteries in the Ozarks. He's the man who went out with his son, came back with the big track right there. Doyle's as honest as the day was long. And so he when he went in there, he had a big. Might have been a cane Corso, but about 150-pound dog. She had, I think he said, maybe 12 puppies. Had her in the barn back there. Bigfoot broke his barn down in the back. came in and killed his cane corso, pulled her, or slammed her against a pine tree, killed her, and pulled her almost half in two, stomped every one of them puppies to death. And he told me this yesterday, folks, when I was down there shooting that show with KRK, ABC there in Little Rock. And man, Doyle's just as honest as he can be. He's seen 4 of them. He's got them on his property. And but boy, he's just you see that show. He's watching the one over on the edge of the lake when it's walking through, and it's kicking his feet, trying to kick stuff up onto the bank right there. It's called Monsters and Mysteries in America. But I've known him for quite a while, and just really, really good guy. But that thing did his dogs that way, man. So you just don't ever know what these rogue Bigfoot are going to do. There's another lady that I talked to last year that's down in a place called Smithland, Texas. She had some dachshund puppies and a mama back there. That thing just pushed her pen down and stomped the puppies in the mama. So you don't know. It may be because dogs are yappy. It may be because he's a rogue. But whatever it is, if it's my dog, then the next day I go from Bigfoot researcher to Bigfoot looking for her, because we're having to do it. Because man, I love my dogs now, and people I really love my dogs. I have one time that was one of the only aggressive encounters I had. Got after me and my pit bull, and man, I just knew it was going to be one of them bad deals. But thank goodness I hit the fob on my truck, started honking. When it did, it threw him off just enough to where he decided to stay up on the hill. Me and her got back in the truck, and we drove back to Texarkana. So, but yeah, it is, man. It's the way you're going to get things like that. And that's why these guys have that show called Killing Bigfoot. They help a lot of people who have Bigfoot trouble.
They do.
Yes, it happens in Louisiana. You guys can tell them. It's and they've got a different attitude down here. Everything that they want to eat down here is going to try to kill them. They're either going to get hooked by hogs, you're going to get bit by snakes. You're going to have the daggum coyotes down there. You're going to have bears. Whatever it is, and so they tend to have a little bit of a bad attitude despite what they have already. So the people that think that they killing Bigfoot, why do you want to that they aren't to be trusted, Greg? I say, Greg says, thank you for explaining these things aren't to be trusted. I've had 2 encounters and was fixing to have a third one up there, what we call ground zero up there in the base of the Ozarks. The week before, he ran down on me, ran down the hill. I could hear him coming. He got in the brush over there. He stayed there maybe 2 or 3 minutes. He took back off. Okay, this is great. So I came back the next week to check my cameras. Wherever I did, he ran down the hill. This time I see him maneuvering in this blasted patch of brush there, and I could see some hair every now and then, but he's squatted down. He's trying to keep it seen, but he's doing that stuff right there. And I realized you get that feeling. I mean, good Lord gave you some common sense. Things were not going to turn out like it was on the rest of my deals. And I had 2 pistols. I pulled both them pistols out like Wild Bill Hickok, and I walked the hill backwards. Now, that's the honest truth. I didn't want to kill him, but I'm not real fond of him having the idea that he wants to kill me either. I ain't got much meat on my legs like a spindly chicken anymore. So but that's why you can trust them up to a point, but you've got so many intangibles. Suppose he's injured. Suppose he has a baby. Suppose it's a territorial deal. Suppose so there's a lot of things to consider. Again, like I said, I think if they were going to hurt me, I wouldn't. Except for those 3, I wouldn't be here right now. But you just got to be careful. You hear so many times of dogs turning on people that I rescue dogs. Me and my wife do. But every now and then you'll have one that'll just turn on you and bite you. Well, the same way with these rogue Bigfoot. And so, again, as a rule, don't shoot at them. Your secret weapon when you have a Bigfoot encounter at night is going to be a flashlight. That's right, flashlight. They don't like light. And I've had them just throw that hand up there in front of their face, just turn around and take off right there. They don't like light. And so with that right there, then you can see what's out there in the dark. Otherwise, you can't. So if you go out with a flashlight or without a good spotlight, it's not going to be a good scenario. It could possibly not be a good scenario for you. So carry that. Now I do a lot of things that may sound stupid. Will, why don't you do that? And then you carry things out there to attract them. I do Bigfoot calls. I do a barred owl call. I have one of those recorders, like one of them old flutes that we had when we were kids, in music class. You couldn't carry a tune for nothing. They wanted you to play Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, and you're like, what the heck is that? Is that Purple Haze by Jimi Hendrix, But I actually responded to that flute like that, or that recorder. So I do that. Also, they have a train whistle you can find sometimes, like at a place like Cracker Barrel or Novelty Shop, like that right there. I've had them respond to that one quite a few times as well. And like I said, I do a barred owl call, and you'll see a lot of sightings there if you study any of this, and you'll see that the barred owl call really, really works. And so I've had them respond to a borrowed alcohol. I've actually done one where I had one respond to me down there barking like a dog. They came up around to see what it was, saw that I was a human. You're just walking away, So anyway, so there's things, but it doesn't make sense why you do that. But why are you out there looking for something? I'm 6'2" and about 265 right now. Why are you out there looking for something that's twice or 3 times as big as you sometimes? Because I'm not a thrill junkie, man. It's just these experiences that I have. There's something that I really enjoy, and it also gives me a good feeling knowing that as smart as man thinks he is, God's still got in control, because there's still some things that we just don't know about, And every now and then He lets us have sightings or something like that. And when you do, it makes you realize, hey, there's things out here that you need to be careful with. I didn't mean to monopolize all this time, guys, but man, you know me, man. I mean, I do love this, and I want to share this with everybody if I can. That's why I wrote a book. It wasn't to make no money. I'm not going to make no money. I'm still a little bit in the hole right now. I've sold enough right now where I'm getting close. But whenever I get caught to where I'm even, what I'm going to do with the rest of the money? I'm going to write another book, which is stupid. I've got enough material. And then I've got enough. Go ahead.
I just put a link to Will's book, and I'll also pin it at the top of the comment section tomorrow.
All right.
And let's see. We got a question I see from Greg.
Okay.
And I'll let you answer this, and then we got some audio we want to listen to.
Okay, great.
And Greg says, have you ever heard them try to cut you off from your vehicle or your way out of the woods?
Greg's the only one.
Well, Greg, I'll tell you what, on that case right there, I've had them where they pushed me out of the woods, making sure I got out of there. I haven't had them try to cut me off just yet, but I've had them push me out of the woods and make it. They have ways of letting you know real adamantly that they want you out of their territory. And they get just as aggressive as they have to, I think, but like I said, to the point of not attacking you or anything. Okay, you had one run between you and your truck one night. I believe that. I've got several people that I've talked to. That's one thing after doing this for as long as I've done it. I get probably 5 people a week that will contact me who, just like you, Greg, have had one that sit there, come around their vehicle and run them off their vehicle or something other like that right there. So again, I don't know how they perceive it. They may perceive us as a threat, but whatever it is, it does happen. So, and I haven't read about anybody getting killed by something like that, but we did have a guy down here in Texas that had one that charged him from his vehicle like that. And he thought his wife had left her purse out there on top of the vehicle. Well, it was he could see the head, so he went out there and he carried a 9mm with him all the time. He thought it was his wife's purse. He went to go get it, and when he did, this thing runs over and cuts him off the same way. Well, when he does, he shoots. He says he shoots 5 times with it. Said it finally he hits it all 5 times. And said it runs off and then starts coming back the next couple of nights there. Looking through the windows, banging on the walls, and everything else like this. And so they will do that. And like I said, that's the occasional rogue, like the rogue person that you run into. So it does happen. I thank goodness that it doesn't happen a lot. But like I said, I'm prepared. I mean, I'm not going out to shoot one. I'm actually carry a 45-70, or I even have an elephant gun. I've got a daggum bear down there that's about 6.5 foot tall. It stands on his back legs, does one of them numbers at me right there, man. You talk about make your hair. I don't have much hair to stand up, but when it does, what's there? It's up there. My hat's sitting up over my head like that when it gets through. But I do carry that. Carry that for that right there but I don't care it for the Bigfoot. The Bigfoot, I'm just so far just no kill and hope I'm always that way. I know a lot of people, have had experiences. As a UPS man, I got to go to Falk and deliver one time. Man, I was so excited. I'm like, man, I'm gonna have a bunch of stories. Well, it took me a long time to get any stories because I'd ask these people and they weren't clannish. They just, closed, but they considered it a part of everyday life to see this Falk monster down there, to see that big creature in the woods. I talked to one man, finally he opened up to me. He said, well, you asked me the other day, he said, so I'm going to tell you. He said, there was a big old buck over in the corner of my pasture right there. And he said, it was deer season. He said, so I had my 30-30 on my tractor. He said, I got down and he said, I shot that big old buck with that 30-30. He said, that creature screamed like I had killed his best friend. And he said the screaming went on for about another 10 to 15 minutes. He said after he killed that deer, he said it didn't keep him from going and getting it. He said it was almost like it hurt his feelings, or that was his, almost like Harry and the Hendersons when he's got that buck holding up there, and then the John Lithgow has mounted on his wall. He said it was really really strange how that was. He said, but that thing, he said, it hurt his feelings for me to kill that deer. So it's strange, but they haven't tried to block me, but they have pushed me. And I've heard of several other people saying, yeah, when they want you out of the woods, they're gonna chase you, but they're gonna chase you just fast enough so that they don't catch you, but just so that you don't slow down, and you get that burst of adrenaline. There a couple of kids 2 years ago had that happen to them. They didn't believe in Bigfoot. They was down there doing some coon hunting at night by my buddy's place, Shannon. And so anyway, they see the female over there. Well, then wherever they do, they get scared enough that they start going back towards their vehicle. Well, when they do, Daddy's behind them. And then, of course, they said, oh, man, he could call us at any time, but it scared them to death. They quit coon hunting for a long time, and which I still wouldn't be no coon hunter, man, after that right there. But so it does happen. TV show Wild America. Do you know if Marty Stouffer? I'm not sure if Marty does or not. This is Mark Ledford here, Mark. I'm really not sure. I would imagine that he has seen some things that he just doesn't get to admit to sometimes because of what it's going to do to TV and TV ratings. I'll tell you what I did do not too long ago. I got to interview the sheriff of Miller County. He was a sheriff and a deputy for during all this time of the Fountain Monster stuff. And I asked him, I said, how do you feel about this? He goes, I've never seen it. He said, but the stories that I can tell you, and he started telling me stories, and there's about 30 stories that he laid on me right there on video. And I said, is there an unwritten law that if you are in law enforcement that you're not allowed to admit that these things are real or that the black cats are here? He goes, well, it may be somewhere. He said, but it was in Miller County. He said, if we got a report of the Fountain Monster, we checked it out until we got the thing solved for what we had some evidence and that we could give the people some advice. And he said, he said, although I never saw it, he said, enough people that I talked to did. And he said, you could tell they weren't lying, just like what we spoke about at the front of the show. So but that was a thrill of my life to get to talk to him about that. I wanted to. His name's H.L. Phillips, really, really great guy. And man, we were supposed to talk for an hour. We talked for 3 hours. And like I said, I was able to get it on video till my daggum phone just run out. And then we kept on talking after that, But to hear good stuff like that right there, where he is a law enforcement officer, where they would call him and he would go up there and check it out. He would find the tracks. He would find the hair. He was there when the dogs took off and wouldn't chase the creature and came back and jumped into the pens and everything. There, whenever the man was riding the horse and the thing scared the horse and threw him off there. So he was there, and he said, even though I never saw it, he said, I believe it was real. And boy, that's have an honest man tell you something like that. Because I've had some. I've asked some of them. Some of them will tell me. I've had some here in Miller County say yes. And we've had some reports down there, And he said, we're nervous when we go down to check it out. I said, well, that's good to me. I told him, that gun you got on your hip ain't gonna do nothing for you. I'm scared to death out of a game warden last year. We went on Memorial Day up there to what we call the dark woods, and we was going down the road, and one of them threw a rock at my truck and hit the bottom of my truck. I was just creeping along. We were kind of peeping through the woods, and that rock hit so hard. And so I stopped, and so I got out. Well, here comes the game warden, and the guy game warden was real cool, but the lady game warden, she acted like I was trying to pull her leg. She goes, what are y'all doing up here? I said, well, we're actually looking for Bigfoot. Man, her eyeballs got big as bag as daggum duck eggs, buddy. She said, Bigfoot. I said, here? Yeah, here. No, we're looking for Bigfoot here because there was some seen 10 miles away. No, that's what we're here. So anyway, it was quite funny. She kind of got the scare of her life because I don't think she believed at that time. When she saw there wasn't any malice or any deceit in my voice or anything like that. And then the other two guys are with me, just honest as the day is long. Shoot, man, I think she kind of got a little eye-opening there a little bit. And that's good for them, too. There.
Yep.
Yeah. We got, I want to play this audio.
Okay.
You sent me. I'll get it pulled up. The way that I did it is I show it from 0 to 7,000 hertz.
Okay.
So that you can see what the human voice looks like on the spectrogram. And then I zero it in so that you can get a good look at what we believe is a booger.
It's a booger, no doubt.
So we'll just let me get this where I can pull it up.
All right. Folks, this is As It Happens, December 13th, 2013. Go ahead, Mark.
You're muted, Mark.
There you go.
That was an awesome capture.
I appreciate that. That right there, folks, what you listened to the first was me. We came up on this Bigfoot a couple of months earlier down there, and we were hearing him. He wasn't, that's like the Ohio howl, or they'll call that a bell tone howl. He wasn't doing that right there, but he was down there making noise and doing some kind of a vocalization. This is December 13th in 2013, and we go down there. Me and my son did that night, and so when we got down there, I did that Bigfoot call, and whenever I did, 5 different times this thing answered me, and all of them, of course, my son, it was back in 2013. The cell phones weren't near as good as what they are now, but he recorded that on his cell phone. But that thing answered me 5 times. Well, the 4 times, just like clockwork, you do that, and it answered me back the same volume, but the phones don't pick it up as well. But you can still hear it. It's not echoes from me. That's this creature on his own. But we get to the 5th one, and I do that right there. And so whenever I make the call, and then whenever my son is recording that, all of a sudden he tried to call, and whenever he did, he stepped on his voice kind of like that. And when he did, hey, it just shut down just like that right there. And no, man, he was so embarrassed, but he was really mad at himself because the thing was still answering us. And I'm sure that what they were doing, you heard another right there at the second call, which sounded like an ape. I think they were probably down there hunting. We actually heard one, or a couple of them kill a deer one night. And man, it's the most heart-wrenching thing you've ever heard, and wasn't nothing the deer could do about it. He was just marked for death as far as that goes. But that right there was, and then in December the 20th, then whenever we went back down there right before Christmas, then we got him to answer 3 times. But then that was all he would answer. Evidently, my voice was not what it should have been that night, or else he was just tired of playing, and he wouldn't answer Reese at all. But that is, I appreciate that. That's a real booger guy. I'm not kidding with you. That's where I saw the one there, the same place on the Easter Sunday 2014. Me and Stephen have been down there. We've had that same kind of call. I went down there with a friend of mine, with Jamie Longacre and her husband, and we heard some of the same things, and Randy Crawford. So those things, that's what they are, and that's called the Ohio howl. And boy, it will flat get your attention.
Okay, I guess we need to pull up these. Man, I cannot believe an hour and a half has gone by.
Man, just wind the clock back and we start all over.
Okay, we're going to pull these pictures up, and we'll let you give us the backstory.
Okay, I will. I'm going to make it real quick. All right, guys, we found these this last year here in January. You can see the right foot and the left foot. That's me and Daniel Becker down there at a place we call Ground Zero. And one of these tracks right there is 22, and the other one is 18. And the one on the left is the 22. The 18 is, and the one on the right is the 18-inch. But, man, you see the toes. You see how deep it is, man. And it's relatively moist. You're not even seeing my footprints on there. But very plain. You can't deny that. That's one of those tracks that you're really fortunate to get in your life. Now, I don't cast them anymore, because by the time you cast these tracks, you can spend $20 on a cast, and then there's no guarantee that it's going to turn out good or it's going to break or something like that. So, but I got them, and I take them with my camera, and you can see the big toe on the one on the left. You see all the toes. Then the one on the right, you see the big toe and everything as well. So they're but they're not the same creature. They're 2 different creatures.
Let's see.
All right, this is again, one of these is last year in April. The one on the right is last year in April. The one on the left is this year again in January. You can see the toes just plain as day right there on the left-hand side. And that's actually almost the 3-toed track that we've talked about earlier. There may be one that's hidden maybe but I think that's the 3-toed track. But the one on the right, that creature right there, I think that could be a male and female. The females tend to be wider, giving birth and things like that. You'll see how they kind of have a parentheses shape to most of their feet, whereas the male is, tend to be more streamlined. But that one on the right there is 22 inches. The tracks are 4 inches long on those toes. And you'll see in a minute, you'll see what creature made that right there. And when we found that, man, we were just blown away. Now that's my foot right there, and I wear that's a size 12 boot. and it's not even nowhere close, man. You can see that's actually 11 and a half inches wide, 22 by 11 and a half inches wide. So I think the one on the right is a male. I think the one on the left is a female. Okay, well, this is good one. On the left-hand side is the same way. 4 days after we took the pictures in April of last year, we see this female Bigfoot on the left-hand side. Beautiful, beautiful coat. She was just a little bit farther away than what I wanted, and I only had my cell phone. I didn't have my wife's digital phone. But she's going across this field right there. Well, she stopped. Everybody says, "Oh man, that's all you do, just get pictures. How come you don't get video?" Well, I'm going to try to get a video. Well, she stops. We have a 5-minute staring contest. Well, coincidentally, I have something to do. So I said, "Daniel, I'm going to just have to take these pictures right here." I said, "There's something on her waistline, either her arm or something like that, or else it's a bush waving." Well, anyway, so I took that picture on the left. When I got home, put it on the computer and blew it up. And the one on the right, you can see her eyes, and you can see that nose, almost like a human or almost like a proboscis monkey. Not very much, stuff there on her face. And then you see the baby's eyes right down there below her. Right there. So that's her and the baby right there. That's some of the baby pictures that we've gotten and through there. So I thought that one was just I knew I was going to get my video, but I didn't get it. But I'll take the pictures like that at any given time, when you can blow them up and get them that clear. Okay, this right here, I told y'all about this a while ago. This is why you guy in the orange hat on the right-hand side picture in the corner. That's me looking to the right at the Bigfoot that are making the noise. Directly ahead of me there is the one that's been separated from his group. So they're trying to get my attention over there. So this one that's straight ahead there, so he can get back with the group. So I'm sitting there looking. I've got a 45-70. Daniel is behind me taking pictures, but he doesn't even realize it's there. He's just taking pictures, getting ready in case Bigfoot busts out of there. We don't see him. We get ready to leave there, and I said, "Well, send me some of them pictures." We do, and I said, "Look here, Daniel." So we look at it. The next thing you'll see will be the as it happens sequence here. But you see that Bigfoot hiding behind that tree, and that's that's not just a cliche. They love to hide, man. They love to hide behind them trees, but they'll peek out at you, and every now and then you get lucky and you see one like that. And I'm glad to get the picture, like I say, even though I missed the bit. Okay, here I am right here. This is exactly as it happens right there. That's me. You see me looking to the right with that orange hat on, and my right hand there's the butt of a 45-70 rifle right there. And I'm not looking ahead up there, but you can see the Bigfoot behind that skinny tree. And then on the left-hand side, it's kind of the wider lens. But that's one of the roads that we're going down. It leads through probably about a 100-acre patch of pine trees right there. And so he's just right there in front of us. And like I said, they were making all kinds of noise. A little bit later on, we had some babies that were up there that actually did the chatter that you heard them do, And then after they did the chatter, quit, and then all of a sudden Mama blasted us. And when she did, Daniel goes, "Oh man, what are we going to do?" I said, "We're going to wait and see what she does." Well, thank goodness she didn't do anything. On the left right here is a picture I got back here in January. We went to the ARC exhibit up there. So I left my camera out. It's pretty cold. I didn't want to go get it. I kind of got lazy. I left my camera out. This on the left is actually a Bigfoot staring at my camera. And you can see the eyes there. You see the whites, but what you can't see as well, the irises on that Bigfoot are blue. I've never seen a blue-eyed Bigfoot, but Christy Sci-Fi from New Orleans, she brought down a guy this year to the Fountain Monster Conference, and he's a Bigfoot artist. And he had drawn a picture of a blue-eyed Bigfoot. I just couldn't believe it. But this joker on the left, he is just massive. But this one on the right is the 10.5 footer that we got that made that 22-inch footprint. If you look in the middle right there, you'll see a hand. That baby's reaching around Mama or Dad, whichever one. I'm assuming it's probably Daddy actually, but it could be. But he's got that hand right there, and then there's one kind of holding onto his neck. But that joker right there is just massive, and he'll weigh over 1,000 pounds. I promise you. Okay, on the left right there, it's what you see. That's about a 5.5 footer. You see his little arm being bent. He's got a Snickers bar in his hand. When we put cameras out there, we tend to bait them up with Snickers bars. They kind of have a sweet tooth, kind of like this fat boy that you're listening to on the podcast here. But you can see his leg. His leg is bent. You see the silver glint off his leg. But look at the length of that foot at the bottom of that left leg right there. That's why they get the name Bigfoot. But he's what we call a Hank. He's got a round head rather than the cone head. Well, the one on the right-hand side is a cone head from my buddy's land, the one I told y'all who was standing there that the Bigfoot screamed at him, the 9-footer, guy Shannon's land. And it's actually walking up to my wife. And I said, "Cindy, you got a Bigfoot walking up to you." She goes, "Where?" She goes, "I don't see him." I said, "He's on his way." She goes, "Don't you dare let him walk up the way to me." So I took the picture. He didn't know what he was in for, but if he'd have kept on walking, he'd have went back like, squealing like a. But anyway, that's him walking up on my wife, and you can kind of see he's got kind of a buttermilk chin, but you can see the cone head, you see the dark eyes, you can see the left hand or the left arm there as he's pushing down brush coming in through there. But he's not wanting to be seen. I just coincidentally just happened to see the movement. I was at a different angle, and he was looking at her and not looking at me. So I saw him walking up and got that picture. That's from my cell phone. The one on the left is actually from my game cam. On the left here is the track line. Yesterday, the top track that you see that's got the tape measure up there is a 15.5-inch track. That's Mama's track. The second one back here is a 10-inch track. That's that baby. We've been tracking that one. I'm sure that's the same one that you saw, a 3 3/4-inch track a while ago. We keep getting different tracks as he's grown, but that's taking the same trail every time. And this is me and Jim Owenby. It was on Jim's side of the truck, so he saw it. Good old eagle eye. We got out and then did the measurements on it to see what it was. But on the right-hand side there is the 7'5" space between the tracks that we got down at Smith Park down there. It just got through raining. UPS called and said, well, we didn't get some of our trailers in. You want to take the day off? And so I could do it without pay, so I did. And so when we got there, the tracks had just been made. There was another that was coming off the road right there that, man, it looked like he'd almost busted his rear end. But it was really, really deep. But you can see that's a 3-toed track right there at the bottom of the tape measure. And then at the top is another 3-toed track. And then that's my big size 12 feet up there at the top there. This is a good one I got a couple months ago there. The one on the left there, it's not quite as good as I want it to be because we had rain of all things and the fog was there. Sure enough, about that time, he decides to walk up in front of my camera. But you can actually see the cone head on that Bigfoot on the left right there. And you can see his face. You see the dark eyes. You see the brow ridge. On the right-hand side is the one from my buddy Shannon's land down there. I think that's the female down there. But she actually has a cone head sitting there staring at my camera. And so whenever it got through, we got the picture. It threw my camera into a water pile. And so whenever we found it, thank goodness it hadn't been totally soaked yet. Still part of it where the SD card was out of the water. So I was able to get that and salvage that picture. But you see the cone head on that. And like I said, that appears to be a female. And so that's two right there, two cone heads. They look similar, but they're totally different. And they're about 60 miles away from each other. So not the same one. Okay, well, this right here is really cool. This right here is if you see the head tilted a little bit, tilt the head there to the left-hand side, you'll see the eyes. This is a baby Bigfoot about 2 days after I got that one that I just showed you that had the fog camera there, the cone-headed Bigfoot. He's walked up there to the game cam, and he is staring into the lens on the game cam. You can see the eyes, you see the irises, and boy, he is just intent. The top you see is the top of that little cone head just now appears to be growing. I think it's probably a juvenile. Then I filtered it again in black and white, just in case somebody thinks I'm messing with them. You can see it again in black and white. And that's that same little baby Bigfoot that is sitting there looking into my camera. They do it all the time. Generally, when you get their picture of an adult, they'll throw your game cams. Okay, on the left, again, I did a little bit better picture of that mama that I showed you there down at my buddy's land there, Shannon, a little bit in the color. But on the right-hand side, that is this baby Bigfoot that we just talked about, of that track line there, the one that's 3 3/4. This is mama carrying him. She's stepping up over some logs. She's going back into the woods. And so that's why her arms are spread out. She's just huge, but she's got that booger. You can see he has a little cone head. You can see hair all coming off of her legs and everything. So we got that picture as she walked by. And then, like I said, we got several more pictures. She takes the same trail all the time. The only reason we didn't get her coming in because they bush hogged our land, so we had to turn the camera around. This is the total tree structure that I told y'all that he built in one night on October 15th, right down there. And you can see just how big those logs are, how he's got them wedged together. You couldn't shake it loose hardly. I mean, it just wasn't any vibration. There wasn't any looseness at all. And there's 7 tracks around that structure that was made. I actually took my father-in-law, man, it was one of the thrills of his life to get to see it. And I took my wife, and there was no denying. I mean, big tracks, about 16.5, 17 inches long. But this is down at real close to Smith Park or real close to Sulphur River, there off Highway 237. And Texarkana. But that is just a beautiful structure because I mean things just don't fall the same way. Again, here it is right here that my buddy tore down. That was down there at the state park down there. This is a little bit better picture of it. Look how it's built right there. I mean, there's no way that landed that way. You can put 4 or 5 tornadoes down there blowing in different ways. It's not going to blow that up against a tree like that. That was by Bigfoot. And like I said, I had heard he was down there back when I ran the UPS route down there about 10 years before. I actually heard one down there screaming, so I knew they were there. So when I found this, I was so excited. Went to go take my buddy the next day, and they had done torn it down. There was not a single stick even left on the ground after that. They're so thorough and want to be sure that they don't show that these creatures are to be real. So they cleaned it up right there. Man, I was just, boy, like I said, I was livid. So I learned a valuable lesson. This is one that's down actually in Smith Park right here. We got to watch, me and my wife got to watch certain parts of this be added when we saw this thing was being built. Look how that's woven. And those are they're about 200, 250 pound logs, how they're woven in between there. I had to get on them and try to squat them like you would do a bodybuilder squat. But look how intricate that design is. That could appear in any modern art museum that there is in the United States right there. It's just beautiful. And how they have the intent in the design. They just didn't throw it up there and like you do pixie sticks coming out of the cans. Okay, let's see how it's going to land. There's actually intent with that. And like I said, they would add stuff every day while we was down there. I'd try to take a picture. We also have one that was a teepee that we added that the same way that you can see them adding to it every day. But that's just look how beautiful that is, man.
Let's see. We got a question here from Diane.
Eddie, okay. I see it now. Do you think they build those two cylinders because they're so well built? As you said, that one was put up very quick. Maybe he put up so he could take a nap, and he could be, and that's exactly right. They've got different. I think they have different motives. Sometimes I think it could be boredom, but I think they're definitely a useful tool of these things where they go through. The one on the left, we've seen that asterisk before. I just wanted y'all to see a little bit better, cleared it up a little bit, add a little bit. Touched up the color a little more, got some of the sunshine out. But the one on the right is actually jammed into the ground. And if you look at the way the limbs are growing upside down. No, the tree didn't grow upside down. Bigfoot has jammed that in there like a post hole. I mean, you cannot shake it in there. And so I happened to find that. That's down there close to Sulphur River off of Texarkana, Arkansas, right there off Highway 237. I mean, and it's just perfect. That's about 5 foot tall right there where that is right there. So anything that can do that, as a rule, I just don't want him putting his hands on me.
That's right.
Even for a massage, I got a funny feeling I come out with. All right, these two right here are some more of those Bigfoot huts that you saw. The one on the left right there is down right there. You can see on the right there, that picture on the left there, there's it's called palmettos. About everywhere I see Bigfoot, you'll find palmettos. They use those palmettos for medicine, I think. And so they do have them at a different value. Even people do that. But you can see where he had that built up there. And that's just right there off the road. You can see the road up there, maybe 30 or 40 feet up there. Well, he's using that as a daggum blind to do some hunting. You can also see one of the bowed limbs up there. I have a Bigfoot I call Tim Tree Bow. Well, he's bowed that limb right there. And I hope Tim don't get mad at me, but I hope you're a Bigfoot lover. But then the one on the right I found up there at Ground Zero, which is up there in the foothills of the Ozarks right as they start. And this is about 6 foot tall, and it's got a space in the middle that's about 8 foot inside there. PJ, Arkansas, we found that same igloo type structure here. Hey, classic Bigfoot behavior. They're going to use it. Either they're going to sleep in it, they're going to hide if they feel like there's danger, or they're going to bust out there and catch them a deer or a hog or whatever it is. This one on the right is built right there beside a honeysuckle patch. They love honeysuckle and they love dewberries. So there's honeysuckle and dewberries, and it's built right beside. But you can see, that said, those things are interwoven. It didn't fall with no daggum storm or anything else like that. That's actually been done with intent. So I hope y'all enjoy that. We could have gone with a bunch of them there. I didn't want to bore y'all to death, but I want y'all to see that what these things do, just how intelligent.
Well, we've got a few more, but I just thought I'd interrupt you because these comments can get away from you and you can't go back and pull them back up. But Jelly Bean Sunshine would like to know, Mr. William, have you ever seen a Dogman?
Seen about 5 Dogmen, and but we have a picture. Stephen got one day. We were running our cameras and we ran them backwards instead of the way we normally ran them. So we surprised this one. Coincidentally, this Dogman was leading 3 Bigfoot up a hill, and then there was a juvenile Dogman right there. He went and ran underneath a leaning log. The other Bigfoot just squat down in the grass like that, but leading down the edge of this tree line is a mama Bigfoot. You can see the anatomical difference, and she's actually leading her juvenile. But yes, I have seen Dogman. I've seen about 5 of them. I've heard them several times. I've talked to a lot of people that I trust that say, man, you just ain't gonna believe me. Well, try me. Well, yeah, I believe you. And it was really hard talking about Dogman because my wife said, Will, it's hard enough to defend you being a Bigfoot researcher. Now you want to talk about werewolves. Well, these aren't werewolves. They look like werewolves, but they stay animals. They don't turn back into human beings. But I have seen Dogman, and Dogman is real. But so far, Dogman has not even offered to bother me and Stephen. We've had more trouble out of Bigfoot that way. But Jelly Bean, if you send me that stuff, I'll send you that picture, a couple pictures of Dogman. Well, right here, on the left-hand side is a 22-inch Bigfoot track I found down in Sulphur River Bottoms down there. And there was 5 hogs that were laying there. He had ripped into the rib cage of one of those 5 hogs, tore out all the insides. So I went back a couple of days later where he had carried that hog away. But here was his track right here, the one on the left there. You can blow it up and you can see 22 inches. That's 22 by almost 12 right there, how thick it is. The one on the right is evidently his mate, the one that has the hole right there in the heel. That right there is a 19-inch track. And you can see at the top there, I put where the toes were, where you see those little rocks right there. And showing, look how wide she is. And again, you can kind of see the parentheses, bowed shape of where the foot kind of bends there in the middle. And then I went a couple of days later and they had killed a turkey. This right here is the real beast right here. Put a fishing rod in his hand and he'll kick your behind and make you glad you got it. I have a good time with this guy right here. Like I said, we talk Bigfoot, we talk Bible church. We got a very, very pretty girlfriend. Like I said, she's very, very sweet. And she said if he don't change his name to Larry Porsche instead of Larry Porsche, that she ain't going to marry him. Her name is Debbie Jones, and we can call her Debbie Dow Jones. Sure as Larry gets, but they take it so well because, guys, I'm a kidder. You know, you can't take this too seriously. It's just Bigfoot hunting, but it's a real thing. And getting to meet these guys, you know, and associate with them and they know that we're not telling each other stories because, man, Larry's seen them on my phone right there, and Mark hasn't yet. But I met Mark up there one time, and one of the guys is up there talking and said, well, if you can't be a Christian, Christianity has nothing to do with Bigfoot. You can't be a Bigfoot researcher. And I went up to Mark. I said, Mark, I got to tell you what your buddy said. I said, I disagree with him. And Mark said to me, he said, so do I. He said, maybe we can change his mind. But I don't know that he ever tried. I never tried. But for a guy to say something other like that, man, how dumb. He also told me he chased a Bigfoot up a hill and weighs 330 pounds. But if he chased one, it was down the hill and he was rolling when he was doing it. Because he did. That's the kind of guys these two guys are, and the work that they do to give you all this show. I mean, truly, it's a lot of work to do that. That's why I don't have one reason I don't have a podcast. I'm also computer illiterate, but these guys work hard to find good guests and to find things, and I appreciate them for what they do, man. Because whenever I heard they had Sawdust Beast, I was all excited to get on there and finally have been. I think this is my second show, but for what they do, man, I appreciate them so much. They give y'all such good information, and these guys get out of the house. They're not on the couch in the living room, you know, watching the rest of Finding Bigfoot or Paranormal caught on camera. These guys are out there. They're up there at Land Between the Lakes. They're there at Falk, like Mark said. He's down there at Mercer Valley. You go down there at night, buddy, you don't even feel good when you're comfortable down there. So they're out there. They're to give y'all the real story. And they're giving y'all boots on the ground research. They're not just giving you their opinions. If it was, they would be good enough to tell you that that's their opinion. So again, appreciate them for what they do for bringing this kind of show to you. You might be mad at them for having a knucklehead like me on here and wasting y'all's time, but I want you to know I really appreciate what they do because they have been just so receptive to my research. And any questions that me or Stephen have, we can call them, and man, they'll give us answers, the best answers they can give us. Just win a show.
Which is usually I don't know.
We'll tell you real quick. I don't know.
See, that's one I use. Who left these dishes in here in the sink? I don't know.
That's right.
So that's a beneficial, but no, they do, guys, and they really do. They put on a good what they're teaching you or they're trying to share with you, not teach you, but trying to share with you is true. So again, I value these guys. I value their friendship. I value their knowledge. There's no telling what they spend every year getting to go different places here after they hear these Bigfoot reports and stuff like to come back and tell y'all about it. So again, I'm always honored to be here with that. And I said, you'll hear my friend Brian Horn, the one I told you about, you'll hear him say the same thing. Man, these guys are the real thing. So glad Bill said to count his friends. My friend Stephen, who ain't never told a lie in his life, he'll tell you the same thing. He said, we're going to have them down here. I said, well, that'll be good.
Yeah, yeah, it would be good.
We're almost out of time, but
Okay.
you have to spend some time talking about your book. If
Okay.
I'm going to put the link up, what could the reader expect to read?
Guys, you're going to find in there, you're going to find 46 years. I've got 46 years of Bigfoot research. So I didn't break up my book into two pieces because of that. I didn't want to break up my research. But what you're going to find is whenever my first encounter that I had is where I started in chapter 1. And then I began to tell you where I lived down there when we used to have Bigfoot down there, when one actually got after the man and his mule that would bring the produce to our house that night. And then we had neighbors that would hear him. We had 2 train tracks behind our house a good ways back there. And when the trains would whistle, you'd hear the Bigfoot howl, and so you'll hear that right there. Then you'll hear about my hometown, basically, which is Texarkana. There's some, it's got its own identity to it. I've got that listed in the book, but you'll read about that too as well. Being the home of Willie Davis of the Green Bay Packers, the home of Scott Joplin, the ragtime pianist, the home of H. Ross Perot. And then, so you'll read about that. And then you'll hear about me one time nearly getting shot by another hunter who was so scared because he had seen 3 Bigfoot. I went to hunt that afternoon. I was up in the tree. I rattled the limbs, trying to get myself satisfied after I had to work half a day. I looked down there and the guy's got the gun pointed at me. Man, I hollered at him, and I'm lucky he didn't shoot me, because I hollered, "Hey!" And then I hollered again, and I'm lucky it didn't scare him. But you'll hear about that. And he said, "Well," I said, "you shouldn't even be down here hunting if you can't follow the rules like that, because you don't ever aim a gun at what you don't know." Well, man, I'm sorry, it's not like that. Well, he told me the truth. I appreciate it, but then I went and told somebody else at this bait store down there what he had done. They said, "Yeah, we know him." They said, "Man," said, "he has what he calls his 3 friends." Thank you for that nice compliment we just got right there just then, by the way, for saying I'm a nice guy. Guys, I try to be. I'm nobody special. I'm not an expert. Just I enjoy living life and like I said, associating with good people if I can, trying to be the best I can. But I'm going to be the best researcher for you that I can be, and I'm going to share it with you. I'm not going to just try to keep it, to where it's hidden and say, "Oh, well, man, somebody might find my Bigfoot research area." But again, you're going to find that story of that man right there. Then you're going to find as I became a UPS man for 35 years. And I knew every road for 70 miles in every direction. That ain't no joke. And I would see people up there and I would go ask them questions, and then it'd take them a while before they'd tell me, then they'd tell me the truth. And I'd pick up some of the stories and things like that. I saw 2 from my UPS truck. I had driven, I thought was about 1.5 million miles, but I had forgotten about what I had put on my personal truck whenever I was driving where we didn't have enough truck. So I'd driven over 2 million miles. I saw one up in Douglasville, Texas from my UPS truck. And then I saw one down in Maud, Texas from my UPS truck. That's the only 2 I saw. But I had so many people who had encounters. So you'll hear about that right there. You'll hear about some of the crazy places I was. I had a electronic clipboard. This Bigfoot would zap my electronic clipboard and all my battery paddle would go down. So they were fixing to fire me. They thought I was doing something wrong. They brought 3 of them boys down there and brought one of the supervisors from Pine Bluff, Arkansas. We go down there and all of a sudden his battery goes off right there as well. No, I'm back on. So we're down there in the middle. So sure enough, he realizes that there's something down there that's just, and I don't know what I say. It's just I think it's infrasound. I just think they have that ability. I believe it. My buddy Steven, he got zapped with infrasound. He was laying on a hospital gurney. They were fixing to shoot him with adrenaline through his heart to bring him back. But you're going to read about infrasound, which is what lions can do, which is what elephants can do. And the way elephants recognize their infrasound is through their feet. Now, what other animal would be better to recognize infrasound through their feet than Bigfoot? I mean, truly. So it's a real thing. So you'll read some things like that. Like I said, I tried to share some anecdotes I got with other people there. But then, man, I've a lot that I've spent in the woods. The times I've had my wife with me, that I've had my son with me, that I've had my nephew with me. Times I've been down there by myself, and so you're going to hear that as well. And then hopefully, I'm going to be able to lead you there to when you read these stories that I want to be part of the next part of the stories. And sure enough, I've got probably another 20 stories or more that I'm able to put into another book if I can. I've got a lot more pictures to add in there. And then my next book is going to be a book of pictures from the Bigfoot trackways, from the Bigfoot structures, and from the creatures themselves. And so I'm going to do that because it's all, when you can see something like that, you get to see, gosh, Will, you're not crazy. Some of the pictures are not as good, like I said, because they can zap that camera and it gets kind of fuzzy. But the ones that I have, I want people to see, and I want them to know, hey, man, he was not lying to us. And the chance to see that animal, or the creature or the being, however you want to describe it, chance to see that, and you'll find that in the book as well. And I wrote it, like I said, it's been written since 2014, been on hard copy, but my mom got sick. I had to take care of her. And then she passed away, and I went into daggone depression, and I didn't finish it for a while. I didn't get it published. I just couldn't shake the feeling. Like I said, she's the first one I told about seeing the fat monster, and when she said, son, I don't believe I tell a whole lot of people, that's what moms do, that good old sage advice. I couldn't shake that, but I finally did. And, but like I said, you'll see, I've got hard copies from back, 2014 from my first part I started writing all the way to then. So, it's okay, available on Amazon through hard copy, Diane. Yes, it is. It's also available through what's called Lulu books. I don't ever, the paperbacks are, and I think they're like maybe $30, something like that, plus shipping. And then they're also available from Kindle in the paperbacks there. But Amazon, we had a little discussion there, and they wanted to overprice the books, and I made them pull it off of Amazon, except in the hard copy. In the paperback, I had them pull it off because I didn't think, man, I realized I'm talking with everyday people, man. Y'all got more things to spend. You got kids, man. You got automobiles to put your money in than buying a $70 or $80 book like that. And so I wanted to keep it at a reasonable price level. And then we're still having discussions over that. I think they'll do what's right. It's just going to take a little bit of time. So, but I've got it printed, like I said, Amazon. It's got the hard copy. And then if I was going to get one, I'd probably get it through Amazon. And then, Kindle, direct publishing, and then also through Lulu books. And you can find it. And I feel real confident. If you want to learn something about Bigfoot, I've been fortunate enough to live in this area, been fortunate enough to have these sightings and to have these experiences and to talk to other people who have. You're going to learn something about Bigfoot. It's what I have written is here. It's not my opinion most of the time. If there's something like, if you say, well, what do you eat? Well, I know they eat alligator. You're going to see a picture of an alligator in there that Bigfoot has killed, and you're going to see the scutes, and you're going to see the backbone in there with my nephew holding it up. You're going to read about some of the things that they eat and some of the things that they do, and the calls that they make. And so I think it's going to be worth your read. It's even if I didn't read it, if you know it's true, it makes it that much more interesting. This isn't just something that I read. They when I first wrote this book, they wanted to classify it under fiction. I said, no, you're not classifying it under fiction. I said, because it's not fiction. It's my life. I said, you want to put it somewhere, put it underneath biography, and that's hard to believe that people have had that, but it's actually true. So it's written there. I don't know if they classify it, but it's called Searching for the Unfindable, My Quest for the Arkansas Bigfoot, which is originally the Fat Monster, but it's some of the other ones that I've seen around the state and been looking for, and then go continue looking for. And y'all continue to pray for me that I get to come home from every endeavor right there. Because sometimes, like I said, sometimes it gets pretty scary. But the great partners that I got, man, we'll take that for each other and take care of each other. And I think you'll really enjoy the read. And I don't say that because I wrote it. I'm actually smarter than I look. And people say, well, you don't have any choice about that one. Well, that may be so. I've actually had some other stuff published, so I can actually write. I got a good education from Texas Arkansas High School back when you could really get a good education from Texas Arkansas High School. And so I think you'll enjoy it. And you're going to hear some 4-letter words like ain't and y'all, but that's going to be the only 4-letter words you're going to hear. I'm pretty family friendly, Okay, you're just an old Southern redneck. Well, man, I wear that like a badge of honor as far as that goes. But when they went to edit the book, they started taking out y'all and started putting you all and are not. And I said, no. I said, man, we're not doing that. I said, this is written from my standpoint. This is people that I'm around. I said, not that they don't have the education, but it's just, this is how they talk and how we talk. And so we're going to leave it written in Southern dialect the way it is. And there's some Southern humor in there, I think you'll find. I'm pretty much a joker, even in my book right there. And then you're going to hear a story of a friend of mine who actually saw a body with a head cut off that had been found down at Hurricane Isaac. And it was being transported back to, she thought the Smithsonian. The person who had it made them put down their cameras, made them put down their cell phones. They got to see the body. It was in a refrigerated trailer, and it stank like crazy, she said. I talked to her just this last week, a matter of fact, make sure I had the story correct again. But I knew I had, but she told it to me 3 times before then. But you're going to hear that story. So does the government know about it? You bet he does. The government does. But, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm not going to try to force it on anybody. The only way you'll ever hear me change my story is if they come to me with a gun, threaten my family. And oh yeah, I never saw anything. Then the next day's deal is going to be a local ex-UPS man shoots stranger in his home. I'm not going to let him threaten my family either, but it is real, folks. And I appreciate y'all giving me the time tonight to listen. I appreciate these people here who have taken the time to listen to what I've talked about here. Because like I said, I'm passionate about it, but I'm passionate about it because it's real. It's something I never thought I would see, never even thought about it. And to be down here where the second most famous Bigfoot in the United States, the Fountain Monster, is. And it's not a West Coast creature, folks. Back 1721, Natchez, Mississippi. 1796, South Carolina. 1829, Milledgeville, Georgia. 1834, Arkansas. 2 years before Arkansas becomes a state. 50 years before, or 30 years before the Civil War in there. And all these things are happening. It's called the Arkansas Wild Man. And so it's been here and being documented like that. So like one chapter in my next book is going to be called "You Stole My Creature," but I'm going to write about the sightings that have been seen here in the South, and not that they're not up north because they start or the West Coast, they certainly are. But right here in mainstream America, you allowed to walk out anytime and see a Bigfoot, crossing the road or whatever. And then I hope you do, because you'll realize the majesticness of what these creatures are. And you'll say, man, I didn't see one else. We're so excited about doing this stuff.
Well, we appreciate you so much, William, for coming on and sharing. It's always a joy to talk to you and to spend time with you. And Larry, it's your turn to talk.
I wished I had Will's enthusiasm and energy to go do this like he does.
Well, I appreciate that, guys. I really do. Man, I love this. And but like I said, why. You've met my partners. They love it too, just like I do. We've been very fortunate. When I send Jelly Bean that picture of that Dogman, she's going to be that excited too, sitting there. But I really do. I appreciate that. I'm 64 years old. My wife is very patient with me, thank goodness, because it's not an inexpensive hobby. You get to travel some and everything like that, and it's just time consuming. And bless our heart for putting up with that right there. But guys, I'm going to keep up every time. There's 3 websites you can look at that list Bigfoot sightings. You'll find them. Find you something close to your home if you can. And go hit some of the rivers, some of the parking lots there on the wildlife management areas, boat ramps and stuff. You might even have a sighting. That's a good way to get started. And again, carry your flashlight. No doubt about it. Carry your flashlight. That's your best friend. And I had a man call me this week. He was a trucker, ran one of the Sprinter type trucks. Truck broke down. He's taking a nap there in the back or he's taking a nap in the back of his vehicle. He left his door up to get some air. Wherever he does, Bigfoot sticks his head in on the inside of the truck and looks back. And then this was Tuesday when I talked to him. He sent me that deal, and just as honest as he can be, And he said, "Will," he said, "I like to freaked out." He said, "He's lucky I didn't pee on him." He said, "Because I peed my pants." Well, I did too the first time I saw him. I was potty trained back then. That's not something I but he just took me out of the way there. So it just took away my cognizance there, and so happened again. Hasn't happened since, thank goodness. But with this guy, it did. Just like a real fine guy. Contacted me. We talked about 2 or 3 hours, and then he said, over the road like that, I never would have believed it until then. He said, and now there's no doubt in my mind. And that's so. I may include that. Finish the rest of that story in my book there the next time I write one. As far as so that's kind of it, guys. I appreciate y'all having me. Like I said, folks, thank you for listening so much. Like I said, and for what you do there, for supporting these guys, man. Support these guys. They bring you a good show, and then they put everything into it, and it's definitely worth it. Anytime you listen to them, you're going to learn something. If you want to have an interest, if you don't, then there's always tennis or football or something else. But if you do, you're going to have things happen to you here that's you're never going to forget them. So again, support these guys. Pray for our military. Pray for our veterans, man. Pray for our children in this. We got a screwed up country. Let's get it straightened out here. And pray for the old white-headed, semi-bald-headed guy that he might see him from his next trip, Bigfoot, and I'll be with y'all hopefully sometime again pretty soon.
As long as you take Steven with you, you'll be fine. I think he can wrestle one.
Steven is about 6'4" and about 330, but he's a tall man. He is robust. He is not fat. His daggum beard weighs 5 pounds, man. But he is a good guy, honest guy, very smart.
Yeah.
he compliments me where he's more of a thinking kind of guy, which is great. Like I said, I'm like, my hair's on fire, but he hasn't had any aggressive encounters yet. When he does, then me and Steve are going to just swap roles. I'm just kick back and take it easy. And I'm like, Steven, like I told you all a while ago, man, I drank 2 Mountain Dews before the show. I was ready to go.
Well, we want to thank you again for coming on, and we want to thank everybody that watches us, whether you watch us live or watch us later on. We just want to know that we consider y'all family, and we appreciate each and every one. If you have any questions, put them in the comment section, because William will answer them. And,
I will.
And he's just a great and friendly feller, and we just appreciate sharing a campfire with people like William. And because me and Larry would have probably walked away a long time ago with some of the fellers we've had to deal with, but it's people like Will that makes it enjoyable.
It does. And like I said, and to hear what y'all hear, we know it's true, guys. These guys aren't making stuff up like that. Like, it's not story time, it's not Tingle or anything else like this. This is Beast TV, and the Beast is real. And so you haven't been had. What you've had is 2 good hours of these guys' life, that presented something to you there that's real. And Larry's girlfriend as well. So, she researches. As a female, she's one of the best researchers we have out there too. Mark, man, like I said, Mark is great. He's ever since he came on the scene. I was there whenever he did his first show there at Bologna, Arkansas, and man, just really, really a class guy. He's one of the upper echelons of what we have out here as Bigfooters, and I appreciate both you guys for sure.
Thanks.
You too, like I said, you're a heck of a fisherman. Quit beating me, or you're not going back.
I may start out ahead, but you always catch up.
All right. Well, we're going to say good night and stay safe out there. And we love each and every one of y'all.
For sure. Thank you.
Night, footers.
You betcha.
Good night.
See y'all next time.
If you would like to support Beast TV, check out our gear. We have coffee mugs, face masks, gaiters, shirts, and tank tops. The link is pinned at the top of the comment section. Everything is always marked down 20%. So come check out our junk.
This has been a Sawdust production.